The cardiac monitor screams, a piercing, unbroken wail that cuts through the antiseptic silence of the ICU like a blade. Then nothing. Flatline. For 3 eternal seconds, the green line refuses to move. Nurses freeze mid-step. A doctor's hand hovers over the crash cart. Then, blip, the line jolts, climbs, steadies into a rhythm that shouldn't exist. Across the dimly lit room, a young nurse in rumpled scrubs leans close to a man everyone wrote off months ago and whispers something no one else can hear. Her fingers adjust his IV with the kind of precision that comes from caring when no one's watching. What she doesn't know, his eyelids are flickering. What she can't see, someone in the shadows has been recording everything. What no one suspects, this nobody, is about to shatter the most powerful institution in the city. Because the man in that bed just heard every word she said, and he's about to wake up. If you want to see how an invisible nurse brings down an empire built on lies, stay with me until the very end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The emergency room doors of Silverbrook Medical Center swing open every 11 seconds on average, spilling chaos into the fluorescent corridors like a wound that never closes. Lena Russo moves through it the way water moves around stone, unseen, essential, ignored. She's 26, small-framed, with dark hair pulled back so tight it could be mistaken for discipline. It isn't. It's survival. In a place where attention means scrutiny, and scrutiny means termination, invisibility is armor. Russo! The bark comes from charge nurse Dominic Crane, a man whose jawline seems permanently clenched in disapproval. He doesn't look up from his tablet. Room 702, vitals check, 10 minutes ago. Lena nods, already moving. She learned months ago not to explain that she was restocking crash carts in the surgical wing when he paged her. Explanations are viewed as excuses here. Excuses are viewed as weakness. Weakness gets you reassigned to the night shift in the geriatric wing where the fluorescent lights hum like dying insects and the smell of decay seeps into your scrubs no matter how many times you wash them. Room 7. O2 is at the end of the intensive care corridor, past the nurse's station where her so-called colleagues huddle around someone's phone, laughing at a video she'll never be invited to see. Lena catches fragments as she passes. Did you see her face when Crane can't even handle a basic catheter change? Why they keep her around is beyond me. She keeps walking. The words used to sting. Now they're just weather. Inside 702, the air tastes stale and medicinal. Machines breathe for the room's only occupant, a rhythmic hiss-click that's become Lena's second heartbeat over the past 4 months. The patient, listed in the system only as V, Haley, 48M, TBI/multi-trauma, hasn't moved since the medevac dropped him here in October. His face is still swollen in places, still bears the faint yellow-green remnants of bruising that's taken its time fading. The official story, stitched together from ambulance reports and police statements, says his car went off a cliffside road during a storm. Single-vehicle accident. No witnesses. Investigators found him 3 hours later, unconscious, pinned in the wreckage. The unofficial story, the one Lena's pieced together from overheard conversations between doctors who think nurses don't listen, is more complicated. V. Hale isn't just anyone. He's Victor Hale, founder and CEO of Hale Industries, a tech conglomerate whose quarterly earnings could fund a small nation. The kind of man whose hospital bills get routed to a private accounting firm and whose medical team includes specialists flown in from Boston and Geneva. The kind of man whose presence in a mid-tier facility like Silverbrook is either a clerical error or something much darker. Lena clips the oximeter to his finger and watches the numbers populate on the monitor. Oxygen saturation, 97%. Heart rate, 64 beats per minute, steady. Blood pressure, 118/76. Neurologically, he's a void. Glasgow Coma Scale score hovers around 6. Eyes closed, no verbal response, minimal motor reflexes. The neurologist said the swelling in his brain had decreased, but recovery was improbable at best. That was 6 weeks ago. No one's bothered to update the prognosis since. "Hey," Lena murmurs, adjusting the blanket across his chest. "It's Thursday. Morning shift. They're saying it might snow tonight, but I don't buy it. Too warm." She checks the feeding tube, the catheter, the IV drip, everything in order. You've got a new bruise on your left arm. I think someone was rough during the last blood draw. I'll put a note in your chart. She talks to him every shift, not because she expects an answer, not because hospital protocol recommends it, though some outdated studies suggest coma patients benefit from auditory stimulation. She does it because in a place where people are reduced to billing codes and bed numbers, someone should remember he's still a person. The door hisses open behind her. Lena doesn't turn. Still wasting time on the vegetable? The voice belongs to Nurse Petra Voss, a woman in her 40s whose competence is matched only by her cruelty. She's holding a medication tray, her scrubs pristine in a way that suggests she spent the morning delegating rather than working. You know he's never waking up, right? Brain-dead rich guy taking up a bed someone else could use. He's not brain-dead, Lena says quietly, making a notation on her tablet. His scans show activity. Activity, Petra snorts. Honey, a dying fish shows activity. Doesn't mean it's thinking. She sets the tray down with a clatter. Dr. Mercer wants you in his office. Now. Lena's stomach tightens. Dr. Raymond Mercer is the chief of medicine, a silver-haired man whose reputation for surgical excellence is eclipsed only by his talent for making subordinates feel like insects under a microscope. She's interacted with him exactly twice. Once during her onboarding, and once when he reprimanded her for overstepping by questioning a medication dosage that turned out to be incorrect. He never apologized. The pharmacist did. Did he say why? Do I look like his secretary? Petra examines her nails. Probably finally firing you. About time. Lena logs out of the patient system and heads for the elevator, her pulse ticking upward. The administrative wing occupies the top floor of Silverbrook's main tower, a gleaming contrast to the scuffed linoleum and flickering lights of the patient wards below. Mercer's office overlooks the city, floor-to-ceiling windows framing a skyline of glass and steel that feels 1,000 miles away from the dying man in room 702. Mercer doesn't look up when she enters. He's reviewing something on his desktop, his expression carved from stone. Behind him, two other figures wait. A woman in a charcoal suit Lena recognizes as Claudia Brennan, Silverbrook's chief financial officer, and a man she's never seen before, mid-50s, military posture, wearing a polo shirt with a discreet Hale Industries logo embroidered on the chest. Nurse Russo. Mercer finally glances up, his tone flat. Do you know why you're here? No, sir. Then allow me to clarify. He taps his screen, and Lena's personnel file appears on the wall-mounted display. Her photo stares back at her, a younger version, still hopeful. You've been assigned to ICU patient Victor Hale for the past 16 weeks. During that time, you've logged more direct care hours with him than any other nurse on staff, correct? Yes, sir. I'm assigned to his room during my shift. And you've taken it upon yourself to exceed standard care protocols. It's not a question. Talking to him, playing music, adjusting his position multiple times per shift to prevent bed sores even though he's on an automatic rotation bed. Lena hesitates. I thought, you're not paid to think, Brennan cuts in, her voice sharp as a scalpel. You're paid to follow procedures. Do you have any idea how much this hospital has spent keeping that man alive? 4 months of ICU occupancy, around-the-clock monitoring, specialist consultations. We're hemorrhaging resources on a patient with zero likelihood of recovery. With respect, ma'am, you can't know. We can and we do. Mercer leans back in his chair, his expression utterly devoid of warmth. Mr. Hale's family has requested we begin transitioning him to a long-term care facility. The transfer is scheduled for Monday. Until then, you're being reassigned. We need that bed for a cardiac case coming in tonight. The words hit like a physical blow. Lena's hands curl into fists at her sides. He's stable. He's showing. He's a liability, Brennan interrupts. And frankly, your attachment to him is unprofessional. We've received complaints from other staff about your conduct. What complaints? The man in the polo shirt finally speaks. His voice is low, controlled, and carries an edge that makes Lena's skin prickle. You've been overheard making statements suggesting Mr. Hale can hear you, that he's aware. These claims are not only medically unsupported, they're distressing to the family. I never said that to his family. I've never even met... Enough. Mercer raises a hand. The decision is final. As of this moment, you're off Mr. Hale's case. Petra Voss will handle his remaining care. You'll be reassigned to post-surgical recovery on the 3rd floor. Report to charge nurse Dalton at the start of your next shift. Lena's throat tightens. Post-surgical recovery is a graveyard shift, a rotational nightmare of medication schedules and panicked family members. It's where they send nurses they want to quit. Sir, if I could just... Dismissed, Nurse Russo. She stands there for 3 seconds longer than she should, her mind racing through arguments that won't matter. Then she turns and walks out, the door clicking shut behind her like a cell lock. The elevator ride down feels like descending into a mine shaft. Lena's vision blurs at the edges, and she blinks hard, refusing to give them the satisfaction of tears. By the time she reaches the ICU floor, her jaw aches from clenching. Petra's already in room 702, scrolling through her phone while the monitors beep their steady rhythm. She glances up when Lena enters. That was quick. Let me guess. They finally got tired of your Florence Nightingale routine? Lena ignores her, moving to Victor Hale's bedside one last time. His face is still, his breathing assisted by the ventilator's mechanical rhythm. She adjusts the blanket even though it doesn't need adjusting, checks the IV line even though Petra's already checked it. You know he can't hear you, right? Petra's voice drips with mock sympathy. All those little chats you've been having, you were talking to yourself. Lena's hand rests briefly on the bed rail. Maybe, she says softly, but at least I was talking to him like he mattered. She walks out before Petra can respond, her badge swinging from her lanyard like a pendulum, counting down the seconds until she's forgotten entirely. The rest of the shift blurs into a haze of mechanical tasks. Lena stocks supply carts, updates patient charts, administers medications with the same precision she's always brought to the job. But her mind keeps circling back to room 702, to the man lying there who's been reduced to a budget line item, to the way Mercer and Brennan spoke about him like he was already dead. At 11 p.m., she clocks out and heads for the staff parking lot, her scrubs damp with sweat despite the cold. The city spreads out below the hospital, a grid of lights that feels impossibly distant. She's halfway to her car when her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She almost declines, then answers on instinct. Hello? Static. Then a voice, faint and distorted. Lena Russo? Her heart stutters. Yes? This is Captain Eric Tanner, U.S. Army Medical Corps. I need you to listen very carefully. Do not go home. Do not speak to anyone at Silverbrook. Get somewhere public and stay there. We're coming to you. The line goes dead. Lena stands frozen in the middle of the parking lot, her breath fogging in the frigid air. Around her, the world continues as if nothing has shifted. Cars pulling out, a distant siren, the hum of the hospital's generators. But everything has just changed, and she doesn't yet understand how. She gets in her car and drives. Well, the all-night diner on Route 9 smells like burnt coffee and frying grease, the kind of place where nobody asks questions and the waitress refills your cup without making eye contact. Lena sits in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a mug that's gone cold twice over. The clock above the counter reads 12:47 a.m. She's been here an hour and 13 minutes, watching the parking lot through the grease-filmed window, waiting for something she can't name. When the black SUV pulls up, she knows. 2 men in civilian clothes step out. Both mid-30s, both moving with the kind of economy that screams military training. One is black, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped hair and a jawline that could cut glass. The other is lean and pale, with wire-rimmed glasses that seem at odds with the way his hand rests near his hip, where Lena suspects a holster is hidden beneath his jacket. They enter the diner, scan the room, and lock onto her immediately. Lena Russo? The broad-shouldered one extends a hand as they approach. Captain Eric Tanner, this is Lieutenant Marcus Cole. We need to talk. Now. Lena doesn't take his hand. Who are you people? How did you get my number? We're part of a joint task force investigating irregularities at Silverbrook Medical Center. Tanner slides into the booth across from her without waiting for an invitation. Cole remains standing, his back to the wall, eyes on the door. And your number was flagged in our system because you've had more contact with Victor Hale than anyone else in that facility. The name lands like a stone in her chest. What does Victor have to do with everything? Tanner interrupts. His voice is low, urgent. Victor Hale didn't have an accident. He was targeted. We have evidence suggesting his vehicle was sabotaged, and we have reason to believe individuals within Silverbrook have been actively preventing his recovery. Lena's hands go numb. That's insane. Why would... Because a comatose billionaire is worth more to certain people than a conscious one. Cole's voice is quieter than Tanner's, but it carries an edge that makes the hairs on Lena's neck rise. Hale Industries controls contracts worth billions. Medical tech, defense systems, AI infrastructure. With Victor incapacitated, control of the company falls to a board of directors, several of whom have been making very profitable decisions in his absence. And Silverbrook, Lena's voice is barely a whisper, is owned by a shell corporation linked to 3 of those board members, Tanner says grimly. They've been keeping him just alive enough to maintain legal ambiguity while they dismantle his empire piece by piece. The transfer to a long-term care facility? That's the endgame. Once he's out of acute care, they can claim he's permanently incapacitated and move forward with a conservatorship. Lena's mind reels. But the doctors, Dr. Mercer, the neurologist, they said he had minimal brain activity. They lied. Cole pulls a tablet from his jacket and sets it on the table. The screen shows a brain scan, colors blooming in regions Lena doesn't fully understand but recognizes as significant. These are Victor's actual scans from 2 weeks ago. Theta wave activity, REM patterns, areas of the prefrontal cortex lighting up in ways consistent with conscious thought. Someone's been doctoring his medical records, downplaying his progress, making sure no one looks too closely. Tanner leans forward. Except you did. You kept detailed notes. You logged discrepancies. You flagged a medication error that could have killed him if it had gone through. I was just doing my job, Lena says numbly. You were the only one doing your job, Tanner corrects. And that made you dangerous. Why do you think they reassigned you tonight? The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. The sudden meeting, Brennan's barely concealed hostility, the man in the Hale Industries polo who'd known things he shouldn't. They were watching me. They've been watching you for weeks, Cole confirms. Every conversation you had with Victor, every note you made in his chart, someone was reporting back. We think it's Petra Voss. She's been receiving payments from an offshore account linked to one of the board members. Lena's hands start to shake. If they think I'm a threat, they do, Tanner says bluntly, which is why we pulled you out. As of tonight, you're under federal protection. We're moving on Silverbrook within the next 72 hours, but we need your help. Help how? We need Victor awake, Cole says, and we need his testimony. Everything we have is circumstantial, shell companies, suspicious payments, altered records. But if Victor can confirm what happened to him, if he can identify who ordered the hit, we can bring the whole network down. Lena stares at them. You want me to wake him up? I'm a nurse, not a neurologist. I can't just... You've been doing it already, Tanner interrupts. Every time you talked to him, every time you played music, every time you treated him like a person instead of a diagnosis, you were reaching him. We have audio logs from his room. His vitals spike when you're there. His brain activity increases. You're the reason he's still fighting. Audio logs? The violation of it makes her stomach turn. You've been recording... We had to, Cole says, and for the first time she hears something like regret in his voice. We couldn't risk tipping off the people inside Silverbrook, but everything we recorded confirms the same thing. Victor Hale is aware. He's been aware for weeks, maybe longer. He just can't communicate. Yet. Lena looks down at her hands, at the faint tremors she can't control. What do you need me to do? Tanner slides a key card across the table. This will get you into Silverbrook's restricted areas. Tomorrow night, 2 a.m., there's a shift change in the ICU. You'll have a 12-minute window when room 702 is unmonitored. We need you to administer this. He produces a small vial filled with clear liquid. It's a neurological stimulant, experimental, cleared for military use only. It won't wake him up permanently, but it'll give him a window, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, where he can communicate. And if it doesn't work? Then we lose our only witness, and the people who tried to kill him get away with it. Tanner's expression is granite. I won't lie to you, Russo. This is dangerous. If anyone catches you, you'll be arrested. If the wrong people find out what you're doing, you could end up like Victor. But if we do nothing, he dies in that long-term facility within 6 months, and everyone who put him there walks away rich. Lena picks up the vial, feeling its weight in her palm. It's impossibly small for something that could unravel so many lives. Why me? Why not send in your own people? Because they'll see us coming, Cole says. Security's been tightened, new cameras, new protocols, but you? You're just a reassigned nurse. You're nobody to them. The word lands like a slap, but Lena doesn't flinch. She's been nobody her entire life. Maybe it's time that meant something. Okay, she says. I'll do it. The hospital at 2 a.m. is a different beast than the one Lena knows by daylight. The fluorescent lights seem harsher, casting shadows that pool in doorways and corners like spilled ink. The corridors are quieter, but not silent. Somewhere, a machine beeps insistently. A patient cries out. A pair of residents laugh too loudly as they pass. Lena moves through it all, with her ID badge clipped to her scrubs, her face a mask of tired professionalism that no one bothers to question. The keycard Tanner gave her works on the first try, unlocking the staff elevator that leads directly to the ICU. Her heart hammers against her ribs as the doors slide shut, enclosing her in a steel box that feels suddenly too small. She presses the button for the 4th floor and watches the numbers climb. When the doors open, the ICU stretches before her like a mausoleum. Half the lights are dimmed for the night shift. The nurse's station is empty, the shift change in progress, just as Tanner said. Lena counts to 10, steadying her breathing, then walks toward room 702. Petra's replacement is a travel nurse Lena doesn't recognize, currently occupied with a coding patient 3 rooms down. Lena slips past unnoticed, swiping the keycard to unlock 702's door. It opens with a soft click that sounds deafening in the silence. Inside, Victor Hale lies exactly as she left him hours ago. The ventilator hisses. The monitors glow. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. Lena pulls the vial from her pocket and moves to his IV line with practiced efficiency. Her hands don't shake as she draws the liquid into a syringe, doesn't hesitate as she injects it into the port. The stimulant disappears into his bloodstream, invisible and irreversible. For 30 seconds, nothing happens. Then Victor's fingers twitch. Lena's breath catches. She leans closer, watching his face. His eyelids flutter, rapid movements beneath the thin skin. On the monitor, his heart rate climbs, 68, 72, 75. His breathing pattern shifts, the ventilator alarm chirping softly as he tries to breathe over the machine. "Victor," Lena whispers, gripping the bed rail. "Can you hear me? If you can hear me, try to move your hand." His right hand lifts an inch off the mattress, fingers curling weakly. Lena's eyes burn. "Oh my God, you're really in there." His lips move, trying to form words around the breathing tube. Lena's medical training kicks in. "Don't try to talk. You've got a ventilator. Just listen. My name is Lena. I've been taking care of you. Do you remember anything about what happened to you?" Victor's hand moves again, this time reaching toward her. His fingers brush hers, surprisingly warm, and close around them with the faint pressure of someone trying to hold on to the edge of a cliff. The door behind her hisses open. Lena spins, her heart slamming into her throat. Petra Voss stands in the doorway, her face illuminated by the hallway light. Her expression shifts from surprise to suspicion to something colder in the space of a heartbeat. "What the hell are you doing in here, Russo? You're not assigned to this patient anymore." "I was just—" Lena's mind races, searching for a plausible lie. "Just what? Injecting him with something?" Petra's eyes drop to the empty syringe still in Lena's hand. "Oh, you've really screwed up now. It's not what you think. I don't care what it is." Petra pulls out her phone. "Security's going to love this. A terminated nurse sneaking into a patient's room in the middle of the night." Victor's monitor screams. Both women freeze. The heart rate has spiked to 110, 120, climbing with terrifying speed. Victor's whole body goes rigid, his back arching off the bed as if he's been electrified. The ventilator alarm joins the cacophony, red lights flashing. "What did you give him?" Petra shouts, rushing to the bedside. "It was supposed to help." "You stupid!" Petra jams the code button on the wall, and immediately the overhead lights blaze to full brightness. "Code blue, room 702. I need a crash cart, now!" The hallway erupts with the thunder of running feet. Lena stumbles backward as the room fills with people. Nurses, a resident, an attending physician who shoves past her without a glance. Someone yells for medications. Someone else calls for the defibrillator. In the chaos, Lena sees Victor's eyes open. They're gray-blue, sharp, and fully aware. They lock onto hers across the crush of bodies, and his lips move, forming a single word she can read even without sound. Run. Then his hand drops, and the monitor flatlines for real this time. That terrible, endless tone that means a heart has stopped fighting. Clear! Someone shouts. Lena backs toward the door as the defibrillator charges, as Petra points at her and says something to the security guard who's just arrived. She has maybe 5 seconds before they grab her. She turns and runs. The ICU corridor blurs past. Behind her, voices shout, "Stop her! Someone get that nurse!" But her legs are already carrying her toward the stairwell, toward the emergency exit she's used 100 times for fire drills. She slams through the door and takes the stairs 3 at a time, her breath tearing in her lungs. 4 floors down. 3. 2. She bursts out into the main lobby just as 2 more security guards round the corner. They see her. She changes direction, heading for the emergency room entrance where ambulances idle and the doors never lock. She's 10 feet from freedom when the entire hospital goes dark. Every light, every monitor, every machine, gone. Emergency generators kick in 2 seconds later, bathing everything in sickly red. And in that crimson glow, Lena sees something that makes her blood freeze. Through the emergency room windows, a convoy of military vehicles rolls up to the entrance. Not ambulances, not police, actual military, armored transports with government plates. Men in tactical gear pouring out with weapons drawn. The lobby erupts into screams. And somewhere above her, in room 702, a man who was supposed to be dying just opened his eyes and told her to run. Lena presses herself against a wall, her pulse roaring in her ears, and realizes with crystalline clarity that she's standing in the center of something so much bigger and darker than she ever imagined. And every second she stays here brings her closer to becoming its next casualty. The red emergency lighting turns the lobby into something from a nightmare, all harsh angles and deep shadows that seem to move on their own. Lena's back presses against cold concrete as tactical boots thunder past her hiding spot behind a massive potted ficus that smells faintly of decay. The soldiers, because that's what they are, not security, not police, fan out with the precision of a drill they've run 1,000 times. Their weapons aren't drawn, but their hands rest on them, ready. Through the crimson haze, she counts 8, then 12, then loses track as more pour through the entrance. A woman's voice cuts through the chaos, amplified and mechanical. This facility is now under federal jurisdiction. All personnel remain at your stations. All visitors proceed to the main lobby for identification. This is not a drill. Lena's legs have gone numb. She needs to move, but her body won't cooperate. Every muscle locked in pure survival instinct that says, predators hunt movement. A nurse she recognizes from pediatrics stumbles past, phone clutched in shaking hands, mascara streaking her cheeks. Behind the admissions desk, the night supervisor is arguing with a soldier whose face remains utterly impassive as she gestures wildly at her computer screen. Footsteps approach. Lena shrinks deeper into the shadows as 2 soldiers stride past, so close she can smell gun oil and tactical fabric. Their radios crackle with fragments of communication she can't fully parse. 4th floor secured. Subject is stable, repeat stable. Need that corridor locked down now, so... Subject. They're talking about Victor, which means the code blue either stopped or never mattered to begin with, which means whatever Lena injected into his IV did something, and these soldiers are here because of it. Her phone vibrates against her hip, the sensation so sudden and violent in the silence that she nearly gasps. She fumbles it out with trembling fingers. Text message. Unknown number. Exit through radiology. North stairwell. Move now. Tanner. It has to be. Lena doesn't let herself think about how he knows where she is or what cameras he's watching through. She just moves, keeping low, using the panicked crowd as cover. The radiology department sits at the far end of the main floor, past the cafeteria, and through a corridor lined with motivational posters that feel obscene in their cheerfulness. She passes a soldier questioning an orderly, another checking IDs at the hallway junction, but no one stops her. In her scrubs with her badge and her exhausted face, she's just another piece of hospital furniture. The north stairwell door is exactly where her mental map says it should be. She slips through, and the sudden quiet is almost worse than the chaos. Her footsteps echo in the concrete shaft as she climbs. each floor marked by peeling numbers painted decades ago. She's aiming for the parking garage on level 3 when she hears voices above her. Can't just lock down an entire hospital without... We can and we are. You want to take it up with the federal prosecutor. Be my guest. Lena freezes on the landing between floors 2 and 3. She recognizes the second voice. Lieutenant Cole. This is completely outrageous. That's Dr. Mercer, his usual iron control cracking at the edges. You have no authority to... I have a federal warrant signed by a judge who's very interested in why your ICU patient's medical records don't match his actual neurological scans. Cole's voice is conversational, almost pleasant, which somehow makes it more dangerous. I also have depositions from 3 nurses who say they were instructed to minimize care. I have bank records showing payments from a Cayman Islands shell corp to your CFO. And I have about 6 hours of audio recordings from room 702 that paint a pretty fascinating picture of negligence at best and conspiracy to commit murder at worst. Silence. Then Mercer, quieter now. I want my lawyer. You're going to need one. Footsteps descend, passing within 10 feet of where Lena crouches against the wall. She doesn't breathe until the door below clangs shut. Then she runs. The parking garage is a cavern of shadows and exhaust fumes, security lights flickering in a pattern that suggests electrical damage from whatever killed the power. Lena's car is on the far side, tucked between a pickup truck and a minivan with a stick-figure family peeling off the rear window. She's fumbling for her keys when a figure emerges from behind a concrete pillar. Captain Tanner, still in civilian clothes, but now wearing a tactical vest over his shirt. You're a hard woman to extract, Russo. What the hell is happening? Lena's voice comes out harsher than intended. You said 72 hours. You said plans changed. Victor woke up. Tanner's expression is grim. Fully. He's been conscious for the last 18 minutes, and he's already identified 3 people who were involved in sabotaging his car. We had to move fast before anyone inside could destroy evidence or disappear. Lena's hands won't stop shaking. The code blue was his body fighting the stimulant. He seized for about 90 seconds, then stabilized. Scared the hell out of everyone in that room, which gave us the perfect cover to move in. Tanner glances past her, scanning the garage with the automatic wariness of someone who's survived by being paranoid. You did good. Better than good. You gave us the opening we needed. I almost killed him. You saved him, and now we need to keep you alive long enough to testify about what you saw. He nods toward a black SUV idling near the exit ramp. That's your ride. Agent Reeves will take you to a safe house until we finish processing the scene. 72 hours, maybe less. Then you'll be debriefed officially. Lena doesn't move. What about the other nurses? Petra, the people who... Being questioned. Some will walk, some won't. Tanner's jaw tightens. Petra Voss is already trying to cut a deal. Turns out she's been taking money to file false reports for the last 2 years, not just on Victor. We're looking at a dozen other cases now where patients died or deteriorated under suspicious circumstances. The enormity of it hits like a physical weight. A dozen patients. How many had Lena walked past without seeing, without questioning, trusting that the system worked because it had to? I should have noticed. I should have... You noticed the one that mattered, Tanner interrupts. And that's more than anyone else did. Now get in the car before someone less friendly than me finds you. The safe house turns out to be a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex 40 minutes outside the city, the kind of beige anonymity that could exist anywhere in America. Agent Reeves, a quiet woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and a service weapon visible at her hip, does a sweep of the rooms, checks the locks, and then positions herself in a chair by the window with a laptop and a cup of coffee that never seems to empty. Lena sits on the couch that smells faintly of industrial cleaner and stares at her phone. 17 missed calls. 32 texts. Most from numbers she doesn't recognize, probably reporters who've already gotten wind of the story. 3 from her mother in Nevada. Each message a variation of, "Are you okay and call me please." She types out a response saying she's fine, immediately deletes it, then turns the phone off entirely. Sleep doesn't come. She lies on the bed in the smaller bedroom and watches the ceiling fan rotate, her mind replaying the moment Victor's eyes opened, the clarity in them, the recognition. He'd known who she was, known what was happening, and his first instinct had been to warn her. A man she'd only ever spoken to while he was unconscious had tried to protect her. At 6 a.m., Reeves knocks softly on the door. "Russo, you decent?" Lena sits up, still wearing yesterday's scrubs. "Yeah." "Tanner's here. Says it's important." The living room has transformed into a mobile command center. Tanner's at the kitchen table with a laptop and 3 phones, Cole standing behind him reviewing something on a tablet. They both look like they haven't slept, but there's an energy in the room that wasn't there before. The electric anticipation of people closing in on a target. "Victor wants to meet you," Tanner says without preamble. Lena blinks. "What?" "He's insisting. Won't give his full statement until he's talked to you face to face." Tanner spins the laptop around. The screen shows Victor Hale propped up in a hospital bed. Not at Silverbrook, somewhere else with better lighting and equipment that looks military grade. He's thinner than she remembers, his face still bearing the ghost of old bruises, but his eyes are alert, alive. He says you're the only person he trusts right now, and frankly, we need that full statement before his lawyers lock this whole thing down. "I don't understand. He doesn't even know me. He knows you spent 4 months keeping him alive when everyone else had given up." Cole sets down the tablet. "He knows you flagged the medication error that would have induced a brain hemorrhage. He knows you documented discrepancies that our forensic accountants are now using to trace the money trail. And he knows you risked everything to wake him up." He pauses. "That's more than most people know about anyone." Lena looks at the screen, at the man she's only ever seen unconscious. "Where is he?" "Walter Reed Medical Center, secured wing. We transferred him 4 hours ago once he was stable enough to move." Tanner closes the laptop. "We can have you there in 90 minutes. You talk to him, he gives us his statement, we move forward with arrests. By tonight, this whole thing breaks wide open." "And if I say no?" "Then we work with what we have, which is substantial but not ironclad. Defense attorneys will argue Victor's testimony is compromised by the head trauma, that his memories aren't reliable, that he's being manipulated by federal agents with an agenda." Tanner meets her eyes. "But if you're there, if you can corroborate his account with what you observed, we've got them cold. Every single person involved, from the board members who ordered the hit to the hospital administrators who enabled it." Lena thinks about Mercer's cold dismissal, Brennan's calculation, Petra's cruelty. She thinks about the dozen other patients Tanner mentioned, people who died because care was a budget line item and compassion was unprofessional. She thinks about Victor's hand closing around hers, the desperate strength in that grip. "Okay," she says. "Let's go." The drive to Washington passes in a blur of highways and security checkpoints. Lena sits in the back of the SUV between Reeves and another agent whose name she doesn't catch, watching the landscape transform from suburban sprawl to urban density. Cole drives with the calm efficiency of someone who's made this run countless times. Tanner rides shotgun, working through a stack of documents and occasionally taking calls that consist mostly of him saying "confirmed" or "proceed." They enter Walter Reed through a side entrance, bypassing the main lobby entirely. The corridors here are wider, cleaner, with the kind of muted professionalism that comes from treating people whose injuries might be classified. A nurse in navy dress uniform escorts them to an elevator that requires both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. "He's been asking for you every 20 minutes, the nurse says to Lena as they ascend. "We tried to get him to rest, but he's determined." The secured wing occupies the entire top floor. More guards, more checkpoints, more locked doors that open with biometric verification. Finally, they reach a room at the end of the hall where 2 soldiers stand post outside. Tanner shows his credentials and they step aside. 15 minutes, Tanner says to Lena. "We'll be right outside." The room is twice the size of a standard hospital setup, with monitoring equipment that looks like it belongs in a science fiction film. And in the center of it all, sitting upright against a mountain of pillows, is Victor Hale. He looks different conscious. Smaller somehow, despite being well over 6 feet. Vulnerability has carved new lines around his eyes and mouth. But when he sees Lena, something in his expression shifts, recognition mixed with something that might be relief. Lena Russo. His voice is rough, damaged by months of intubation. "Come here, please." Lena approaches slowly, aware of the cameras she's certain are recording every moment. "Mr. Hale, Victor. Just Victor. He gestures to a chair someone's positioned beside the bed. Sit. I've been lying down for 4 months. I'm tired of looking up at people. She sits. Up close, she can see the tremor in his hands, the way his breathing still hitches slightly on the inhale. He's recovering, but the damage runs deep. They tell me you're the reason I'm alive, Victor says. The reason I could still think, still process, still remember who I was when I finally woke up. I was just doing my job. No. The word is firm. Your job was to check vitals and change IV bags. You did that. But you also talked to me about the weather, about hospital gossip, about how you thought the neurologist was an idiot for writing me off. A faint smile. You were right, by the way. He is an idiot. Despite everything, Lena almost laughs. How much did you hear? All of it. Every word, every conversation in that room for the last 8 weeks. Before that, things are fragmented. But those last 2 months, I was aware. Conscious, but trapped. His hands clench into fists. Do you have any idea what that's like? Being awake inside a body that won't respond? Hearing doctors discuss pulling the plug? Listening to administrators argue about whether I'm worth the expense? Lena's throat tightens. I can't imagine. The worst part wasn't the helplessness. It was realizing how many people wanted me to die. Victor's voice drops. I heard Claudia Brennan on the phone with someone discussing how to accelerate the timeline. I heard Mercer tell a consultant that my insurance was tapped out and the company would be better off cutting losses. I heard Petra Voss laugh, when another nurse said I'd probably be dead by Christmas. I'm sorry, Lena whispers. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Don't be sorry, be angry. But Victor leans forward, intensity burning in his eyes. Because you're the only one who treated me like I mattered. The only one who fought for me when everyone else had moved on. And I need you to help me make sure this never happens to anyone else. The prosecutors will do what prosecutors do. Build cases, negotiate deals, let half the bastards walk in exchange for testimony. Victor's jaw sets. I want more than that. I want systematic change. I want every hospital in my network audited. I want patient advocacy protocols that can't be overridden by accountants. I want the people who did this not just arrested, but exposed. Their names, their actions, everything. Lena stares at him. That's a lot. I'm a billionaire who just spent 4 months in a coma because someone sabotaged my car so they could steal my company. A lot is the minimum I'm aiming for. He pauses, and something in his expression softens. But I can't do it alone. I need someone who understands what actually happens in those rooms when no one's watching. Someone who knows the difference between policy and practice. Someone patients will trust. The implication settles over Lena like a physical weight. You're asking me to work for you. I'm asking you to help me rebuild something that's broken. Director of Patient Advocacy for Hale Medical Systems. Full authority to investigate complaints, override administrative decisions when care is compromised, report directly to me. Victor's voice is steady, certain. You'll have resources, legal backing, and the protection of a very angry man who's done being nice to people who value profit over lives. Lena's mind reels. I'm just a nurse. I don't have experience with. You have the only experience that matters. You gave a damn when no one else did. Victor extends his hand across the space between them. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm asking you to think about it. Because whether you realize it or not, you've already changed everything. You just have to decide if you want to finish what you started. Lena looks at his hand, then at his face. She sees determination there, and pain, and a kind of fierce hope that's both inspiring and terrifying. Slowly, she reaches out and shakes his hand. His grip is stronger than she expected. The door opens, and Tanner steps in. Sorry to interrupt, but we need to get Victor's statement on record before... The lights cut out. For 3 seconds, the room is absolute darkness. Then emergency batteries kick in, and everything returns bathed in that same red glow Lena remembers from Silverbrook. Alarms scream. The soldiers outside shout something she can't make out over the electronic shrieking. Tanner's weapon is drawn before Lena even processes what's happening. Stay down, he barks. More shouting in the hallway. Running footsteps, heavy and coordinated. The distinctive crack of something that might be gunfire or might be a door being breached. Lena's hospital experience doesn't include identifying combat sounds. Reeves appears in the doorway, her face grim. We've got hostile movement in the stairwell. Someone cut the main power. Building security is locked down, but we've got a 10-minute window before backup arrives. How many? Cole's voice, from somewhere behind Reeves. Unknown. At least 4 confirmed. Victor's monitor starts beeping frantically. His heart rate has spiked to 140, his blood pressure climbing. The stress is pushing his recovering body past safe limits. Lena moves on instinct, checking his IV, adjusting the bed angle to help his breathing. We need to move him, she says to Tanner. He's not stable enough. He's going into tachycardia. If we don't get him somewhere secure where I can sedate him, he's going to stroke out. Lena's training overrides her fear. Where's the nearest bunker? Tanner and Reeves exchange a look. Sub-basement. Reinforced surgical suite designed for wartime triage. Then that's where we go. Lena starts disconnecting monitors, prioritizing what can be moved versus what has to be left behind. Now, the evacuation is controlled chaos. 2 soldiers unhook Victor's bed and wheel it into the hallway, while Lena keeps one hand on his wrist, monitoring his pulse the old-fashioned way. The emergency lighting turns everything into a hellscape of red and black. They move toward a service elevator at the far end of the corridor, a different route than the one Lena came in through. Behind them, the sound of splintering wood, shouting. Someone screams. Move faster, Cole urges, walking backward with his weapon trained on the corridor they just left. The elevator arrives and they pile in. Victor's bed barely fits with 4 soldiers, Tanner, Reeves, Cole, and Lena, all crammed into a space meant for half that number. The doors start to close. A hand jams between them at the last second. The doors bounce back open and Lena's heart stops because standing there, breathing hard, with blood on her scrubs and something wild in her eyes, is Petra Voss. Going down? Petra's smile is all teeth. Good. Because we need to talk. She's holding a tablet in one hand and what looks like a hospital security badge in the other. Behind her, the corridor is empty, but Lena can hear footsteps approaching fast. Tanner's gun comes up. Step back from the elevator. Or what? You'll shoot a nurse in a federal facility? That'll look great on CNN. Petra holds up the tablet. I've got every deleted file from Silverbrook's server. Patient records, financial transactions, recorded phone calls, all the evidence your investigation hasn't found yet. And I've got a deal to offer. We don't negotiate with... I'm not one of them. Petra's voice cracks. You think I wanted to be part of this? You think I took that money because I'm evil? I did it because they threatened to expose my sister's immigration status. Because I've got $60,000 in student loans and a mother in a nursing home I can't afford. I did what I had to do to survive. By helping people die, Lena says quietly. Petra's eyes snap to her. You don't get to judge me. You with your moral superiority and your perfect ethics. You know what you are? Lucky. Lucky you never had to choose between your conscience and keeping a roof over your head. Lucky you never had to watch someone you love suffer because you couldn't afford the care that people like him. She jerks her chin at Victor. Take for granted. The footsteps are getting closer. Tanner makes a decision. Get in, now. Petra steps into the elevator and the doors close. The descent begins. You've got 30 seconds to convince me why I shouldn't have you arrested the moment these doors open, Tanner says. Because I can give you everyone. Not just the obvious targets like Mercer and Brennan, but the whole network. The shell companies, the offshore accounts, the board members pulling strings from Zurich and Singapore. Petra swipes through the tablet. I've been documenting everything for 2 years. Every dirty deal, every threatened nurse, every patient who got substandard care because it was cheaper. I was building an insurance policy in case they ever decided I knew too much. Why come forward now? Cole asks. Because someone just tried to kill me 30 minutes ago. Shot up my apartment, missed me by about 3 feet because I was in the bathroom. Petra's hands are shaking. I realize they're cleaning house. Everyone who can testify, everyone who's a liability, we're all dead the moment this goes public, unless we're in protective custody. Victor speaks for the first time since the chaos started. You let them use me as a test case. You watched while they tried to kill me slowly. I know. Petra won't meet his eyes. I know what I did, and I'll spend the rest of my life living with it. But right now, I can help you make sure it never happens again. That has to count for something. The elevator shudders to a stop. The doors open onto a concrete corridor lined with pipes and electrical conduits. At the far end, a reinforced door marked authorized personnel only. They're halfway there when the lights go out again. This time, they don't come back on. In the absolute darkness, Lena hears breathing, the squeak of Victor's bed wheels, the rustle of tactical gear. Someone's radio crackles, but the words are drowned in static. She reaches out blindly and finds the bed rail holding on. Night vision, Cole says, his voice eerily calm. We've got visual. Stay close. They move forward as a unit, Lena trusting the hands that guide her, the voices that murmur directions. The reinforced door opens with a heavy clang, and they're inside, the space smelling of disinfectant and old metal. Lights flicker on, battery-powered, independent of the main grid. The surgical suite is exactly what Tanner promised. Reinforced walls, sealed ventilation, enough medical equipment to handle mass casualties. Lena immediately starts transferring Victor to one of the surgical beds, her hands moving through familiar routines even as her mind screams that nothing about this is normal. Lock it down, Tanner orders. The door seals with a pneumatic hiss. Magnetic locks engage. They're secure. For now. Victor's heart rate is still dangerously elevated. Lena finds a sedative in the medication cabinet, checks the dosage twice, administers it with steady hands that betray none of the terror singing through her nervous system. Gradually, his vitals stabilize. We've got maybe 2 hours before they breach this door, Reeves says, examining the lock mechanism. It's designed to withstand conventional explosives, but if they've got the right equipment, they won't breach. Victor's voice is slurred from the sedative, but certain. Because in about 90 seconds, every major news outlet in America is going to receive a file dump containing everything Petra just described, plus my personal testimony, plus documentation of tonight's attack. By the time anyone gets through that door, this story will be so public that killing us becomes pointless. Tanner stares at him. You set up a dead man's switch? I set up 5. Different triggers, different timelines, all leading to the same result. But to Victor's eyes are already closing. I didn't survive 4 months of hell just to get murdered in a bunker. I survived to make sure everyone knows exactly what happened and who's responsible. Petra laughs, the sound brittle and slightly hysterical. You magnificent bastard. Miss Voss, Victor murmurs, you and I are going to have a very long conversation when I wake up. But if everything you've told us is accurate, you just might save your own life. And a lot of other people's. He's asleep before anyone can respond. Lena checks his pulse one more time, then sinks into a chair bolted to the floor. Her hands are shaking now, the adrenaline finally catching up. Cole offers her a bottle of water that she accepts with numb fingers. You did good, he says quietly. Most people would have frozen. I'm a nurse. We don't get to freeze. Tanner's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen and something like satisfaction crosses his face. Files just hit the news desks. AP, Reuters, Washington Post, New York Times. We're official. Reeves turns on a small television mounted in the corner of the suite. The screen flickers to life, showing a CNN anchor with breaking news in red letters beneath her face. Multiple sources confirming that tech billionaire Victor Hale, believed to have been in a coma following a car accident, was actually the victim of an assassination attempt. Federal investigators have raided Silverbrook Medical Center in what sources describe as a massive corruption probe. Petra watches the screen, tears streaming down her face. It's over. It's actually over. It's just beginning, Tanner corrects. But yeah, the part where they had control, that's done. Lena closes her eyes and lets herself breathe. Somewhere above them, people are scrambling, careers are ending, empires are crumbling. Down here in this reinforced bunker, a man who was supposed to die is sleeping peacefully, and a nurse who was supposed to be nobody is realizing that sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the one that changes everything. Her phone, still off, sits in her pocket like a dead weight. When she turns it back on, there will be messages, questions, reporters wanting her story. There will be lawyers and depositions and testimony that will take months to complete. There will be a choice to make about Victor's offer, about whether she wants to spend her life fighting the same battles on a bigger stage. But right now, In this moment, she's exactly where she needs to be, keeping someone alive while the world falls apart and rebuilds itself above their heads. The television continues its breathless coverage. Names appear on the screen. Dr. Raymond Mercer, arrested. Claudia Brennan, in custody. Board members being questioned. Stock prices plummeting. A photograph of Victor from before the accident, healthy and commanding, replaced by footage of Silverbrook surrounded by federal vehicles. And then Lena's own face appears. Her ID badge photo, slightly blurry, with a caption that reads, "Our nurse credited with saving Hale's life." She stares at her own image, rendered in pixels and light, seeing a stranger who looks tired and ordinary and completely unprepared for what's coming. But beneath that exhaustion, she sees something else. Someone who refused to look away when it would have been easier. Someone who chose compassion over convenience. Someone who mattered. The bunker door shudders. Everyone freezes. The sound comes again, rhythmic, metallic. Someone's on the other side trying to get in. Tanner and Cole move to positions flanking the entrance, weapons ready. Reeves kills the television. Petra backs into a corner, clutching her tablet like a shield. Lena stays where she is, between the door and Victor's sleeping form. A voice crackles through a speaker Lena hadn't noticed. "Federal agents, identify yourselves. Captain Eric Tanner, Joint Task Force. We have a protected witness and hostile forces in the building." Pause. Then, "Stand down, Captain. Building is secure. The hostiles are in custody. We're here to escort you out." Verification code? A string of numbers and letters that mean nothing to Lena but make Tanner's shoulders relax fractionally. Copy that. Opening up. The locks disengage. The door swings open to reveal not attackers, but a squad of Marines in full combat gear, led by a colonel whose face suggests she's having the worst night of her career. "Mr. Hale is being transferred to an undisclosed location," she says without preamble. "The rest of you are being moved to separate safe houses pending threat assessment. This facility is compromised." "The people who breached," Tanner begins, "are currently discovering that assaulting a federal medical facility is a very short path to life in prison. We've got 4 in custody, 3 more in the wind, but we'll have them by morning." The colonel's gaze sweeps the room and lands on Lena. "You're Russo?" "Yes, ma'am." "You've got about 600 interview requests. White House wants a statement. So does the Senate Oversight Committee, and apparently Good Morning America." A thin smile. "Congratulations, you're famous." Lena looks at Victor, still sleeping peacefully despite the chaos swirling around him. "I just want him to be okay." "He will be, thanks to you." The colonel steps aside. "Now let's move before someone else decides tonight's a good night to do something stupid." They file out into the corridor where more soldiers wait, forming a protective corridor. Victor's bed is transferred to a specialized medical transport that looks like something from a military hospital. Lena watches them wheel him away, his face peaceful in the harsh fluorescent light, and wonders if she'll see him again, or if this is where their strange connection ends. Reeves touches her arm. "Come on, your ride's waiting." But before Lena can move, Victor's eyes open, just briefly, just for a moment. He looks directly at her across the distance and mouths 2 words. "Thank you." Then he's gone, and Lena is being guided toward a different vehicle, a different exit, a different life than the one she woke up to yesterday morning. The night air hits her face like ice water as they emerge from a loading dock into a parking area ringed with military vehicles and armed guards. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wail. Helicopter rotors thump overhead. The city glows against the darkness, oblivious to the war that just played out in its medical center. Lena gets into the SUV and lets them drive her away from the chaos, toward whatever comes next. She thinks about Victor's offer. She thinks about the patients she couldn't save and the ones she might. She thinks about her mother in Nevada and her studio apartment with its peeling paint and the life she'd been living that felt so small and so safe. That life is over. She knows that now. Whether she takes Victor's job or not, whether she testifies or hides, everything has changed. The invisible nurse who nobody noticed just became the person everyone wants to talk to. Her phone buzzes. Someone must have turned it back on. She glances at the screen and her breath catches. New message. Victor Hale. A number she didn't have 5 minutes ago. "When you're ready to talk about the future, call me. We've got work to do." Lena stares at the message as the SUV carries her through streets she doesn't recognize toward a destination she hasn't been told. Behind them, Walter Reed recedes into the distance, its windows blazing with light as investigators swarm through corridors and prosecutors build cases that will take years to fully resolve. But in her hand, a phone glows with 10 words that promise something she never thought she'd have: the power to change a system that nearly destroyed them both. She types a response before she can second-guess herself. "I'm ready. Let's finish this." The message sends, the city blurs past, and somewhere in the darkness, people who thought they were untouchable are learning that the person you dismiss, the voice you ignore, the life you undervalue, that's the crack in your armor you never saw coming until it brings everything down. The SUV pulls into an underground garage beneath a building Lena doesn't recognize, concrete pillars rising like bones in the fluorescent glare. Her thumb hovers over the send button for 3 seconds before she commits, watching the message disappear into whatever encrypted channel connects her phone to Victor's. The response comes back before the vehicle even stops moving. "Good. Press conference tomorrow. 9 a.m., Federal Building downtown. You'll need to be there." Lena's stomach drops. "Press conference?" Reeves glances back from the front seat. "You didn't think this was going to stay quiet, did you? Victor's already working with prosecutors. They want to go public fast, control the narrative before defense attorneys start spinning their version. I'm not a public speaker. You're the face of this story, whether you like it or not." Reeves opens her door, gesturing for Lena to follow. The nurse who stood up to corruption, the whistleblower who saved a billionaire's life. That's the angle they're pushing, and you need to decide if you're going to lean into it or let someone else tell your story for you. The safe house is 3 floors up, accessed through a stairwell that smells like concrete dust and machine oil. 2 agents Lena hasn't met stand guard outside a reinforced door. Inside, the space is sterile, government-issue furniture, blackout curtains, a kitchen stocked with protein bars and bottled water. It looks like a place designed for people to survive, not live. "Get some rest," Reeves says, already moving toward her own room. "Tomorrow's going to be brutal." Lena doesn't sleep. She sits on the edge of a bed that's too firm and scrolls through news coverage on a tablet someone left on the nightstand. Her face appears again and again, that same ID photo, but also new images now, grainy security footage of her entering Silverbrook, leaving the hospital during the lockdown. Someone leaked video of the military convoy at Walter Reed. The comment sections are vicious ecosystems of speculation and judgment. She's probably sleeping with him. Another gold digger looking for a payout. Since when do nurses have the authority to override doctors? If she was so concerned, why didn't she report it sooner? Lena closes the tablet and stares at her hands. They're steady now, all the adrenaline burned away, leaving only exhaustion and a creeping sense that she's stepped into something with no clear exit. Her phone buzzes again. Not Victor this time. A number with a Nevada area code. Her mother. Lena lets it ring 4 times before answering. "Mom. Baby, what the hell is going on?" Her mother's voice is tight with worry and confusion. "I'm seeing your face on CNN. They're saying you exposed some kind of conspiracy. Are you safe?" "I'm safe. I'm in protective custody." "Protective? Lena, what did you do?" "My job." The words come out harder than intended. "I did my job and people didn't like it." Silence on the other end. Then, quieter. "Your father would have been proud." Lena's throat closes. Her father, a paramedic who died responding to a highway pileup when she was 16, had always told her that the work mattered more than the recognition. That saving one life with no one watching was worth more than saving 100 with cameras rolling. She'd built her entire nursing career on that principle, and now here she was, about to stand in front of news cameras and talk about doing exactly what he'd taught her. "I have to go," Lena says. "I'll call you when this is over." "When will that be?" "I don't know." She ends the call before her mother can press further. Outside the window, dawn is breaking over a city that's waking up to a scandal that will dominate headlines for months. Somewhere in that sprawl, people are panicking. Lawyers scrambling to build defenses, board members booking flights to countries without extradition treaties, hospital administrators deleting files and praying the backups were thorough enough. And somewhere else, Victor Hale is preparing to go to war. At 7 a.m., Reeves knocks on the door with a suit bag. This is for you. Government issue, but it fits the profile they want. The suit is charcoal gray, professional, forgettable in the way that says credible witness rather than individual personality. Lena puts it on, feeling like she's wearing someone else's skin. In the bathroom mirror, she barely recognizes herself, too polished, too composed, nothing like the exhausted nurse in rumpled scrubs who stumbled out of Silverbrook less than 24 hours ago. The motorcade to the federal building consists of 3 SUVs and a police escort. Lena rides in the middle vehicle with Reeves and Tanner, watching the city slide past through tinted windows. Pedestrians stop to stare at the convoy. A few hold up phones, recording. By the time they reach the building, a crowd has already gathered. Reporters with cameras, protesters with signs Lena can't read from this distance, curious onlookers drawn by the spectacle. We're going in through the side entrance, Tanner says. You'll be prepped in a secure room, then brought out when it's time. Victor's already inside. The mention of his name makes Lena's pulse spike. She hasn't seen him since they took him away at Walter Reed, hasn't heard his voice except through text messages that could have been written by lawyers for all she knows. Part of her wonders if the man she met in that hospital room even exists anymore, or if he's already been transformed into something else by the machinery of justice and public relations. They enter through a loading dock, past security checkpoints and metal detectors, into corridors lined with federal agents who don't make eye contact. The prep room is small and windowless, with a table, 4 chairs, and a water pitcher that no one touches. A woman in her 50s enters, sharp suit, sharper eyes, carrying a leather folder that probably costs more than Lena's monthly rent. Ms. Russo, I'm Diana Keating, lead prosecutor for the Eastern District. We have 17 minutes before this starts, so listen carefully. She sits without being invited, opens the folder, and slides a single page across the table. This is your statement. I need you to read it, memorize the key points, and deliver it naturally when we call on you. Lena scans the page. The words are clinical, carefully constructed to establish timeline and motive without revealing details that might compromise the ongoing investigation. It sounds nothing like how she actually speaks. This isn't what happened, Lena says. It's a legally vetted version of what happened. The full story comes out in depositions and trial testimony. Today is about establishing the narrative before the defense can muddy the waters. Keating's expression doesn't change. You're not on trial, Ms. Russo. You're a witness to corruption. But the moment you step in front of those cameras, every word you say will be analyzed, dissected, and weaponized. I need you to understand that. I understand that you want me to lie. I want you to survive the next 3 months without being destroyed by lawyers who get paid 6 figures to make people like you look incompetent or malicious. Keating leans forward. You think this is about truth? It's about which version of the truth a jury will believe. And right now, the version where a dedicated nurse noticed something wrong and reported it through proper channels is a lot more compelling than the version where you went rogue, injected an unconscious patient with an experimental drug, and got lucky that he didn't die. The words hit like a slap. That's exactly how defense attorneys will frame it. You violated protocol. You administered an uncontrolled substance. You didn't consult with attending physicians. Any one of those things could have gotten your license revoked and sent you to prison. Keating's voice softens slightly. I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm saying you need to be smart about how we present it. Lena looks at the statement again, the sanitized version of her actions, stripped of desperation and moral ambiguity, rendered into something palatable for public consumption. She thinks about her father, about doing the right thing when no one's watching, about how much harder it is to do the right thing when everyone is. What does Victor think about this? Mr. Hale is currently being briefed by his own legal team. He'll be making a separate statement. I want to talk to him. Before I agree to anything, I want to hear what he's planning to say. Keating's jaw tightens. That's not how this works. Then I'm not reading your statement. Lena pushes the page back across the table. Get Victor or get someone else to stand up there because I'm not doing this blind. For 5 seconds, Keating stares at her with the expression of someone recalculating an equation that just produced an unexpected result. Then she stands, pulls out her phone, and steps into the hallway. Lena can hear her voice through the door, sharp and insistent, though the words are muffled. Tanner, who's been standing silent in the corner, speaks up. You just made an enemy of one of the most powerful prosecutors in the country. Good thing I've had practice being underestimated. The door opens. Keating steps aside and Victor walks in. He looks different in daylight, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Lena's car, his hair combed back, his posture straight despite the lingering effects of 4 months in bed. But his eyes are the same, sharp, aware, carrying the weight of someone who's seen the worst humanity has to offer and decided to fight back anyway. "You wanted to talk," he says, his voice still rough but stronger than it was at Walter Reed. "Talk." Keating starts to object, but Victor holds up a hand. 5 minutes. Alone. The prosecutor's expression suggests she's swallowing nails, but she leaves, pulling Tanner and Reeves with her. The door clicks shut, and suddenly the room feels much smaller. Victor sits in the chair Keating vacated. "They want you to read a script. They want me to lie about what happened. They want you to survive what's coming. There's a difference." He leans back, studying her. "You know what I'm about to do in there? I'm about to stand in front of the world and say that multiple people conspired to kill me, that they nearly succeeded, and that the only reason I'm alive is because one nurse refused to give up. That's going to put a target on your back so big you'll feel it from orbit." "I'm already a target." "No, you're a news story. There's a difference." Victor's voice drops. "The people we're going after have billions of dollars and decades of connections. They will hire investigators to dig through your entire life. Every mistake you've ever made, every questionable decision, every relationship that ended badly, they'll find it and use it. They'll paint you as unstable, attention-seeking, incompetent. They'll find nurses you worked with who didn't like you and pay them to go on record. They'll fabricate evidence if they have to." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand what you're signing up for."
Is that modesty?
Victor's hands clasp together on the table. Keating's statement is designed to protect you. It establishes you as a whistleblower acting within institutional frameworks. It makes you boring, which makes you harder to attack. But if you want to tell the real story, the messy, complicated, legally ambiguous version, I'll back you. I'll put my legal team behind you. I'll pay for the best defamation lawyers money can buy, and I'll make sure you're never alone in this fight. Lena meets his eyes. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just a promise." He stands, walks to the window, though the blackout curtains hide whatever view might exist beyond. "I'm rebuilding my company from the ground up, firing the board, restructuring the medical division, implementing patient advocacy protocols that have actual teeth. And I meant what I said at Walter Reed. I want you leading that effort. But if you do this, if you stand up there and tell the truth, you're going to become synonymous with this story. Every article about healthcare corruption will mention your name. Every hospital reform debate will use you as an example. You'll never be invisible again." "I was never invisible," Lena says quietly. "I was just ignored. There's a difference." Victor turns and something in his expression shifts. Recognition, maybe, or respect. "Then let's make sure they can never ignore anyone like you again." The press conference room is a wall of lights and cameras and faces Lena doesn't recognize. She stands backstage with Victor, Keating, and a phalanx of federal officials whose titles she didn't catch during introductions. Her hands are sweating. Her heart is doing something arrhythmic that would concern her if she were monitoring someone else's vitals. "You're up in 60 seconds, Keating says, her earlier antagonism replaced by professional detachment. "I still think you're making a mistake." "Noted," Victor replies. They walk out together, and the camera flashes create a strobe effect that makes Lena's vision blur. The podium is set up at the front of the room, federal seal behind it, microphones bristling like metal flowers. Victor steps up first, and the room goes silent. "My name is Victor Hale. 4 months ago, someone tried to kill me. They sabotaged my car, sent me off a mountain road, and left me to die. When I survived, they used their positions in a hospital they secretly owned to ensure I never woke up. They falsified medical records, denied proper care, and planned to move me to a facility where I would have been quietly euthanized." Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Pens scratch on notepads. Cameras zoom in. "They failed because of one person, a nurse named Lena Russo, who refused to accept that I was beyond help, who documented irregularities when everyone else looked away, who risked her career and her life to give me a chance to fight back." Victor gestures to Lena. She didn't do it for recognition. She didn't do it for money. She did it because it was right. And that simple act of human decency exposed a network of corruption that spans multiple institutions and involves people whose names you'll be hearing a lot in the coming months. He steps back. Lena steps forward. The lights are blinding. "I'm not a hero," she says, and her voice sounds strange through the speakers, too loud and too small at the same time. "I'm a nurse who saw a patient being mistreated and tried to help him. That shouldn't be extraordinary. That should be baseline. But somewhere along the way, we built a healthcare system that values profit over people, where administrators make life and death decisions based on spreadsheets, where the most vulnerable patients are viewed as liabilities instead of human beings." She's not reading Keating's statement. She's speaking from the part of her that's been angry for years, at the shortage of staff, the impossible patient loads, the way nurses are expected to be saints on minimum wage, while executives take home bonuses that could fund entire departments. Victor Hale is alive because I had time to notice he was being neglected. But how many patients don't get that time? How many people die because their nurse is covering 30 beds instead of 6? How many families lose someone they love because care decisions are made by accountants who've never seen a patient suffer? Lena's hands grip the podium. This isn't just about corruption. It's about a system that's fundamentally broken, where doing the right thing makes you a liability and looking the other way keeps you employed. A reporter shouts a question, but Keating cuts in, her voice sharp. "We'll take questions after the full statement." Victor returns to the microphone. "Effective immediately, every hospital in the Hale Medical Network will undergo independent audit. Patient care protocols will be reviewed and restructured. A new patient advocacy office, led by Ms. Russo, will have authority to investigate complaints and override administrative decisions when care is compromised. And we will be pursuing criminal charges against every individual involved in the conspiracy to end my life, from the board members who ordered it to the hospital staff who enabled it." The room explodes. Reporters shouting over each other, cameras jostling for position. Keating steps up to manage the chaos, but Lena catches Victor's arm before he can leave the stage. "You just announced my new job without asking if I accepted it." "You accepted it the moment you sent that text message last night." His smile is faint. "Unless you've changed your mind in the last 12 hours? I haven't had time to change my mind about anything." "Good, because we're about to make a lot of people very angry, and I need someone who doesn't back down when things get hard." He glances at the media frenzy. "This is the easy part. The real fight starts now." The questions come fast and vicious. A reporter from a financial network asks Victor if he's using the attack as cover to consolidate power. A legal analyst questions whether Lena's actions constitute practicing medicine without a license. Someone demands to know why they didn't go to the police immediately if they knew about the corruption. Keating fields most of it with the smooth deflection of someone who's done this 1,000 times. But eventually a reporter locks eyes with Lena and asks the question she's been dreading. "Miss Russo, you injected Mr. Hale with an experimental drug without authorization. If he had died, would you consider yourself responsible for his death?" The room goes silent. Every camera, every eye, every pen poised over paper, all waiting for her answer. Lena thinks about the vial Tanner gave her, about the moment she pushed the plunger and sent chemicals into Victor's bloodstream that could have stopped his heart. She thinks about the 12 different ways that night could have ended with her in handcuffs and Victor in a morgue. "Yes," she says, "if he died, it would have been on me. I made a choice without consulting anyone, without following protocol, because I believed the system designed to help him was instead being used to kill him. I was right. But I could have been wrong. And if I was wrong, I would have destroyed his last chance at survival." She pauses. "I'm not asking anyone to celebrate what I did. I'm asking you to think about why I felt I had to do it. What kind of institution creates a situation where breaking the rules is the only way to save a life?" The reporter starts a follow-up, but Keating cuts the conference short. "That's all for now. Full statements will be available on the DOJ website within the hour." They're escorted out through a side exit, back into corridors that smell like floor polish, and the sweat of too many people in too small a space. Lena's legs feel like water. She doesn't remember the walk back to the prep room, only that suddenly she's sitting in a chair and someone's handing her water she doesn't drink. "You did well," Victor says. He's loosened his tie, and the facade of corporate confidence has cracked slightly to reveal the exhaustion underneath. "Better than I expected, I might have just confessed to a crime on national television. You admitted to making an impossible choice in an impossible situation. Juries love that. He sits across from her. Keating's furious, by the way. She spent 3 hours crafting a statement that would have kept you safely in the background, and you went up there and made yourself the story. I didn't mean to. Yes, you did. You meant every word. Victor's expression is unreadable. And now you're going to have to live with the consequences. The consequences arrive faster than Lena anticipated. By noon, her face is on every major news site. By 2 p.m., 3 different networks have requested exclusive Gorky's interviews. By 4 p.m., her personal email has been hacked and her undergraduate transcripts leaked online, complete with a failed chemistry exam from freshman year and a disciplinary note about a missed clinical rotation that she made up 3 days later. It's starting, Reeves says, showing Lena her phone where social media has erupted into tribal warfare. Half the internet is calling her a hero. The other half is calling her a reckless vigilante who got lucky. Someone's created a hashtag. Someone else has made a meme. A third group has started a petition demanding her nursing license be revoked. How do I stop this? Lena asks. You don't. You just survive it. The federal attorneys want to start depositions immediately. Victor's legal team wants her sequestered until trial. The hospital board, what's left of it, releases a statement claiming they had no knowledge of any wrongdoing and are cooperating fully with investigators. 3 nurses from Silverbrook go on record saying Lena was always difficult to work with, always questioning orders, always acting like she knew better than the doctors. Petrovos gives an interview from an undisclosed location, tears streaming down her face, talking about how she was coerced and threatened and never wanted to hurt anyone. The internet can't decide if she's a villain seeking redemption or a victim seeking sympathy. Lena watches the interview on the Safe House television and feels something cold settle in her chest. She's lying, Lena says to Reeves. Half of what she just said contradicts what she told us in the elevator. Probably, but her version makes better television. Reeves doesn't look up from her laptop. Welcome to the part where everyone rewrites history to make themselves look better. That night, Lena's phone rings. Unknown number, but she's stopped caring about screening calls. Hello? Miss Russo? The voice is male, older, with an accent she can't place. My name is Richard Castellano. I represent several of the board members you've accused of attempted murder. I'm calling to offer you a settlement. Lena's hand tightens on the phone. I didn't accuse anyone. I testified to what I witnessed. Semantics. The point is my clients are prepared to offer you substantial compensation in exchange for a revised statement clarifying that you may have been mistaken about certain details. I wasn't mistaken. Everyone's mistaken about something, Ms. Russo. Memory is fallible, especially under stress. You are exhausted, overworked, possibly suffering from burnout. It's entirely reasonable that you might have misinterpreted conversations, jumped to conclusions. How much? Lena interrupts. Pause. I'm sorry? How much are you offering? $2 million, tax-free, deposited in an offshore account of your choosing. All you have to do is sign an affidavit stating that you may have been confused about what you heard and saw. Lena laughs, the sound bitter in her own ears. $2 million to discredit myself. That's almost flattering. It's a generous offer, more money than you'll make in a lifetime of nursing. Enough to disappear, start over somewhere the cameras won't find you. Castellano's voice drops. Or you can refuse, and we'll tear apart every aspect of your life in court. Every failed relationship, every mistake, every moment of human weakness, we'll find it and use it. We'll have expert witnesses testify that you have a savior complex, that you're psychologically unstable, that you injected Mr. Hale as part of some delusional fantasy. By the time we're done, no hospital in the country will hire you. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice. Take the money and walk away, or fight us and lose everything. Lena ends the call. Her hands are shaking again, adrenaline flooding her system. She calls Victor's number before she can second-guess herself. He answers on the first ring. What happened? She tells him. The offer, the threats, the cold calculation in Castellano's voice. They're scared, Victor says when she's finished. They wouldn't be offering money if they thought they could win clean. He said they'd destroy me. They'll try, and they'll fail, because I meant what I said about backing you. A pause. Did you consider taking it, the money? No. Not even for a second? Lena thinks about her student loans, her mother's mortgage, the studio apartment that's probably being ransacked by reporters right now. Not even for a second. Good, because tomorrow gets worse. He's right. At 6 a.m., a conservative news network runs a segment questioning Lena's motives, featuring an interview with a former nursing school classmate who claims Lena always had boundary issues with patients. At 8 a.m., someone leaks her therapy records from after her father's death, complete with notes about depression and anxiety. At 10 a.m., an anonymous Twitter account posts photos of Lena leaving a bar with a man 3 years ago, with captions implying she has substance abuse problems. None of it is true. All of it sticks. This is character assassination, Lena says to Keating during an emergency meeting at the prosecutor's office. They're making up lies, and the media is just running with it. Then we fight back. We get your own people on record, colleagues who respected you, patients who benefited from your care, supervisors who gave you positive reviews. Keating's expression is grim. But you need to understand this is going to get uglier before it gets better. We're deposing Mercer tomorrow, and he's going to say everything his lawyers tell him to say, which means he's going to throw you under the bus to save himself. The deposition happens in a conference room that smells like old coffee and desperation. Mercer sits across from federal attorneys, his silver hair perfectly combed, his expression carefully neutral. Lena watches via video feed from a separate room, Tanner and Victor beside her. Dr. Mercer, the lead attorney begins, can you describe your interactions with Nurse Lena Russo? Minimal. She was a junior nurse, unremarkable in most respects. I had concerns about her judgment on several occasions. What kind of concerns? She had a tendency to overinvest emotionally in patients, to personalize cases in ways that clouded her professional judgment. Mercer's voice is measured, clinical. With Mr. Hale specifically, I observed her exhibiting behavior that suggested unhealthy attachment. Spending excessive time in his room, talking to him when there was no medical benefit, becoming defensive when her care decisions were questioned. But Lena's nails dig into her palms. Victor's jaw clenches. Are you suggesting Nurse Russo's actions were motivated by romantic or sexual interest in the patient? I'm suggesting her actions were motivated by something other than professional responsibility. Whether that was romantic interest, a savior complex, or simple attention-seeking, I can't say. But it was clear to myself and other staff that her behavior crossed boundaries. The attorney slides a document across the table. This is a performance review you signed 6 months before Mr. Hale's admission. It rates Nurse Russo as exceeds expectations in patient care and describes her as dedicated and conscientious. How do you reconcile that with your current testimony? Mercer barely glances at it. People can change. Stress can lead to psychological deterioration. I believe that's what we witnessed with Ms. Russo. The deposition continues for 3 more hours, Mercer methodically dismantling Lena's credibility while maintaining his own plausible deniability. He admits to nothing, implies everything, and by the time he's done, the narrative has shifted just enough to plant doubt. He's good, Tanner says grimly. Slippery as hell, but good. He's lying, Lena says. Prove it. Victor stands, his hands braced against the table. That's what we need to do. Find evidence that contradicts his testimony. Find witnesses who will dispute his characterization of you. Find anything that shows he's part of the conspiracy rather than an innocent administrator who got fooled by a rogue nurse. How? Lena's voice cracks. Everyone at Silverbrook who might have supported me has either been silenced or turned against me. The patients I helped can't testify because they're dead or don't remember. It's my word against a respected doctor with 30 years of experience. Victor's phone buzzes. He glances at it, and his expression changes, something sharp and almost predatory settling across his features. We might have a problem, or an opportunity. I'm not sure which yet. He turns the phone so Lena can see. News alert. Former Hale Industries board member found dead in apparent suicide. Marcus Brennan, Victor says quietly. Claudia's husband. He was being deposed tomorrow. He scrolls through the article. Jumped from his office building downtown. Left a note, though they're not releasing the contents. Lena's stomach turns. You think it was actually suicide? I think Marcus was the weakest link. He was a finance guy, not a true believer. If prosecutors pressured him hard enough, he would have flipped. Victor's eyes are cold. So either he killed himself out of guilt, or someone killed him to keep him quiet. Either way, we just lost a witness. The news hits the other major outlets within minutes. Reporters descend on the building where Marcus died, interviewing shocked coworkers and building security. Someone leaks crime scene photos. Someone else publishes the suicide note. 3 sentences about being sorry for his role in events he couldn't control and asking his family for forgiveness. This is a message, Tanner says, reading the coverage over Lena's shoulder. From whoever's running this operation. They're showing they can reach anyone, anywhere. Then we're all targets, Lena says. We've always been targets. They just stopped pretending otherwise. That night, security at the safe house triples. More agents, more protocols, motion sensors on the windows and pressure plates under the doors. Lena lies in bed listening to footsteps in the hallway, voices murmuring in code, the soft crackle of radios. Sleep comes in fragments, interrupted by dreams of falling and surveillance in courtrooms where no one believes a word she says. At 3 a.m., her phone lights up. Victor, calling instead of texting. Can't sleep either? She asks. I've been going through Marcus's financial records, the ones the Fed seized during the raid. His voice is rough with exhaustion. He made a payment 3 days before my accident, $200,000 to a shell company registered in Delaware. The company doesn't exist. No assets, no employees, nothing. Just a bank account that received the money and dispersed it to 6 different individuals. Hitmen? Or mechanics who sabotaged my car, or doctors who falsified records, or any combination thereof. Point is, we can trace the money. We can prove Marcus wasn't just complicit, he was an active participant. A pause. Which makes his suicide a lot more convenient for the people he was paying. You think they killed him? I think dead men don't testify, and I think whoever's coordinating this is smart enough to tie up loose ends before they become problems. Lena sits up, her heart racing. If they killed Marcus to shut him up, and if he was paying people to carry out the conspiracy, then those people are still out there, and they still have a vested interest in making sure this doesn't go to trial. Victor's voice drops. Lena, I need you to consider the possibility that you're not safe. Not in federal custody, not in a safe house, not anywhere they don't control. What are you suggesting? That we disappear, both of us. Take the evidence we have, go somewhere they can't reach us, and coordinate with prosecutors remotely until it's safe to surface. He's talking faster now, the way people do when they're trying to convince themselves as much as the person they're speaking to. I have resources, properties they don't know about, people who owe me favors. We can stay ahead of them long enough to ensure the case moves forward. That's running. That's surviving. There's a difference. Lena thinks about her father again, about the choice between doing what's right and doing what's safe. She thinks about all the patients she couldn't save because the system was designed to fail them. She thinks about Victor lying in that hospital bed, aware but helpless, listening to people discuss his death like it was a business decision. No, she says, we don't run. We push forward, we force this into the light, and we make sure everyone sees exactly what happened. Because if we disappear, they win. They get to control the narrative, discredit our testimony, and continue doing exactly what they've been doing. They'll come after you, after both of us. Then let them. I'm done being invisible. Silence on the other end. Then Victor laughs, short, sharp, almost surprised. All right, then we do this the hard way. Is there an easy way? Not anymore. He ends the call. Lena lies back down but doesn't close her eyes. Somewhere in the city, people are making plans to silence her permanently. Somewhere else, prosecutors are building cases that will take months to try. And somewhere in between those extremes, a nurse who was nobody and a billionaire who was supposed to die are betting everything on the desperate hope that truth still matters more than power. The next morning brings a new development. Petra Voss recants her entire statement. The news breaks at 7 a.m., Petra's face filling the screen as she sits across from a primetime news anchor, her eyes red from crying, her voice shaking as she admits that everything she said in her previous interview was scripted by lawyers hired by the defense. They told me what to say, Petra says. They threatened to prosecute me for murder if I didn't cooperate. They said I could either be a witness or a defendant, and I was terrified. She looks directly at the camera. But I can't live with lying anymore. Everything Lena Russo said is true. Everything Victor Hale testified to is accurate. I was part of it. I took money to file false reports, to discourage questions about patient care, to help cover up what was happening. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The anchor presses her for details. Petra provides them: names, dates, specific conversations with administrators about minimizing care to reduce costs. She describes being approached by Marcus Brennan's representative with an offer of $30,000 to ensure Victor's condition didn't improve. She talks about the culture of fear at Silverbrook, where questioning decisions meant losing your job and possibly facing legal action. By 8 a.m., the story has exploded. By 9 a.m., 3 more nurses from Silverbrook come forward with their own accounts of being pressured to provide substandard care. By 10 a.m., Keating is on television announcing additional criminal charges and an expanded investigation into the entire Hale medical network. Lena watches it all from the safe house, feeling something she hasn't felt in days: hope. Her phone rings. Victor. "Did you see?" She starts. "I saw. And I just got word from Tanner. They arrested Claudia Brennan an hour ago. She's being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, insurance fraud, and about 15 other counts." He sounds energized, alive in a way she hasn't heard since he woke up. "We're winning, Lena. The walls are closing in on them. It's not over yet." "No, but we're close." That afternoon, Lena sits down for her first official deposition. The federal attorneys ask her to walk through everything, from the first time she was assigned to Victor's care to the moment she injected him with the stimulant. She tells it chronologically, honestly, including the parts that make her look reckless or insubordinate. When they ask if she regrets her actions, she says no. When they ask if she'd do it again, she says yes. The deposition lasts 6 hours. When it's over, Keating tells her she did well, that her testimony is consistent and credible, that a jury will find her sympathetic. "What happens now?" Lena asks. "Now we build the trial case. Arraignments start next month. Actual trials probably won't begin for another 6 months, maybe longer if the defense files for delays." Keating gathers her files. "You should prepare for this to dominate your life for the next year, minimum, maybe longer. And after that? After that, you try to rebuild whatever's left." Lena returns to the safe house as the sun sets, painting the city in shades of amber and shadow. She finds Victor waiting in the common room, his laptop open, screens filled with architectural blueprints and organizational charts. "What's all this?" she asks. "The new patient advocacy office. I've been designing it while you were in deposition." He turns the laptop so she can see. "Independent from hospital administration, direct reporting line to me, authority to override care decisions when there's evidence of financial motivation. 3-person investigative team, legal support, protected whistleblower channels." He looks at her. "I meant what I said. This position is yours if you want it." Lena studies the organizational chart. Her name at the top, branches extending downward into a structure designed to prevent exactly what happened to Victor from ever happening again. What if I'm not qualified? What if you're the only person who is? Victor closes the laptop. You saw the system fail and you didn't look away. That's the only qualification that matters. Before Lena can respond, every light in the building cuts out. The darkness is absolute, the kind of black that exists only when all artificial light dies simultaneously. Emergency systems should kick in within 3 seconds. Lena knows this from fire drills, from hospital protocols burned into muscle memory. But 3 seconds pass, then 5, then 10. "Reeves?" Lena calls out. No answer. She hears movement in the darkness, rapid and purposeful. Someone's breathing, close enough to feel the displacement of air. Her hand fumbles for her phone, but before she can find it, something crashes in the hallway, and suddenly there's shouting, the distinctive bark of tactical commands, and the sharp crack of gunfire. Victor grabs her arm. "Move! Now!" They run blind through the darkness, Lena's hand pressed against the wall for guidance, Victor's grip tight on her wrist. Behind them, more shots. Someone screams. Glass shatters. A door ahead. Lena remembers it from the first day. An emergency exit that leads to the fire stairs. Victor slams into it and they tumble through, emergency lighting finally flickering to life in the stairwell. They're 3 floors up. The stairs spiral downward into red-lit shadows. Go, Victor says, already moving. They take the stairs at a reckless pace, Lena's feet barely touching each step. 2nd floor, 1st floor, ground level. The exit door is supposed to be alarmed, but when Victor hits it, it swings open silently into an alley that smells like garbage and rain. A car screeches around the corner, headlights blinding. Lena's brain screams danger, but Victor pulls her forward, and she sees Tanner in the driver's seat, Cole in the passenger seat, with a weapon drawn. "Get in!" Tanner shouts. They dive into the back, and the car is moving before the doors close, tires screaming against asphalt. Behind them, figures emerge from the building. Men in tactical gear, weapons raised. "What the hell happened?" Victor demands. "Coordinated breach. They cut power to the block, jammed our communications, came in through 3 entry points simultaneously." Tanner runs a red light, the car fishtailing through the intersection. "Reeves is down. So are 4 other agents. This wasn't a probe. This was an execution squad." "Who?" "We'll find out. Right now we need distance." The car races through streets Lena doesn't recognize, Cole on his phone coordinating something in clipped military jargon. Sirens rise in the distance, growing louder. Lena looks at Victor and sees her own terror reflected in his eyes. They're not safe. They've never been safe. And whoever just attacked a federal safe house has resources and determination that go beyond anything they've prepared for. Tanner's phone rings. He answers on speaker. "This is Tanner," a voice Lena doesn't recognize. "Captain, this is Command. We've identified the assault team. They're not with any group we know. Mercenaries, probably foreign contractors. But we tracked their exfil route and found something you need to see." "What?" "A secondary target list. You're on it. So is Mr. Hale. And so is every federal prosecutor working the case." A pause. "Sir, this isn't just about silencing witnesses. This is about dismantling the entire investigation." Tanner ends the call and glances at Lena in the rearview mirror. His expression tells her everything she needs to know. The fight she thought they were winning just became a war they might lose. And somewhere in the darkness behind them, people with unlimited resources and zero restraint are coming to finish what they started. The car careens through an intersection as the light turns red, horns blaring from vehicles that swerve to avoid them. Lena braces herself against the door, her medical training screaming at her about crash protocols and cervical spine injuries while her survival instinct just wants them to go faster. Cole's still on the phone, his voice clipped and mechanical as he rattles off coordinates and tactical assessments that mean nothing to her. "Where are we going?" Victor asks, his knuckles white where he grips the seat. "Somewhere they won't expect." Tanner takes a hard left into an industrial district where warehouses loom like sleeping giants. "We've got a fallback location. Military installation 40 minutes north. They'd need an army to breach it." "They just brought an army to a federal safe house," Lena points out. "Then we make sure this one's ready for them." The military installation turns out to be a decommissioned naval facility tucked into hills that overlook the bay, all chain-link fencing and concrete bunkers that smell like rust and old machinery. Guards meet them at the gate, actual soldiers, not private security, with weapons that look like they could punch through engine blocks. They're waved through 3 checkpoints before the car finally stops in an underground garage that feels like descending into a Cold War bunker. Secure perimeter, rotating guard shifts, no electronic communications in or out without encryption, a major explains as he leads them through corridors painted institutional gray. "You'll have everything you need, food, medical supplies, secure workstations, but you stay inside the designated areas. Some parts of this facility are still classified." The room they're given is Spartan. 2 beds, a table, a bathroom, with plumbing that groans when Lena turns on the sink. Victor sits heavily on one of the beds, his face pale. The adrenaline that kept him moving is draining away, leaving behind the reality that his body spent 4 months atrophying and he just ran down 3 flights of stairs and sprinted through an alley. "You need rest," Lena says, automatically shifting into nurse mode. She checks his pulse. Elevated, but not dangerously so. His breathing is labored, though, each inhale shallow. "I need answers." But he doesn't protest when she makes him lie down, doesn't argue when she elevates his legs to improve circulation. They killed federal agents tonight, attacked a protected location. That's an act of war. Or desperation. Lena pulls a chair close to the bed. Maybe Petra's testimony rattled them more than we thought. Maybe they're running out of options. Desperate people are the most dangerous kind. Victor closes his eyes, because they've got nothing left to lose. Tanner appears in the doorway 20 minutes later, his tactical vest removed but his weapon still holstered. Command wants a debrief. Both of you. Now. The command center is 3 levels down, a room full of monitors and satellite feeds and people in uniform who look like they haven't slept in days. A woman with colonel's insignia stands at the head of the table, her gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes sharp enough to cut. Mr. Hale, Miss Russo, I'm Colonel Patricia Vance. I'll be coordinating your security and liaising with federal prosecutors until this situation is contained. She doesn't offer to shake hands. What happened tonight changes everything. We're no longer dealing with corporate corruption and conspiracy to commit murder. We're dealing with an organization that has the resources and willingness to engage in armed assault against federal personnel. Who are they? Victor asks. We're still identifying all the players, but we've got preliminary intel from the assault team members who survived the engagement. Vance pulls up surveillance footage on the main screen. It shows men in black tactical gear breaching the safe house, moving with the precision of trained soldiers. These aren't common criminals, they're professionals, likely former special forces from multiple countries, hired through a private military contractor based in Singapore. Singapore. Victor's jaw tightens. That's where 3 of my former board members relocated last month. They claimed it was for business opportunities. It was for legal immunity. Singapore doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. for white-collar crimes. Vance switches to another screen showing financial transactions, money flowing through a web of shell companies. But what's interesting is the payment structure. The contractor was hired 2 weeks ago, before your press conference, before Petra Voss recanted, before we announced expanded charges. Someone knew this was coming and planned a military response in advance. Lena leans forward. You're saying they had this ready before we even went public? I'm saying they've been planning an endgame since the moment Victor woke up. Maybe before. Vance highlights a transaction. This payment here, $5 million, transferred from a Cayman account to the contractor the same day you administered the stimulant at Walter Reed. Someone was watching the hospital, saw the military presence, and activated a contingency plan. Which means there's a leak, Tanner says grimly. Someone inside the investigation feeding information to the conspiracy. The room goes silent. Everyone's thinking the same thing. If they can't trust the people protecting them, they can't trust anyone. Vance breaks the tension. We're conducting internal security reviews. In the meantime, you're locked down here. No contact with anyone outside this facility without direct clearance from me. That includes your lawyers, Mr. Hale. That's not acceptable. I have a company to run. You have a life to preserve, Vance interrupts. Your company will survive without you for a few days. You might not survive without these precautions. Victor looks like he wants to argue, but Lena catches his eye and shakes her head minutely. Pick your battles. This isn't one worth fighting. They're dismissed back to their quarters, but sleep doesn't come. Lena lies in the darkness, listening to Victor's breathing across the room, wondering how many more times they'll have to run before this ends. Her phone, confiscated for security reasons, sits somewhere in this facility, probably being scrubbed for tracking software. She feels disconnected from reality, like she's been pulled out of the world and placed in a holding pattern where nothing is real except the immediate threat. At 4 a.m., someone knocks on the door. Cole, looking worse than Lena's ever seen him, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. Reeves died an hour ago, he says without preamble. Took 3 rounds during the breach. They tried to stabilize her, but she coded in the ambulance. Lena's chest tightens. Reeves, who'd driven her to Walter Reed, who'd sat reading by the window of the safe house, who told Lena to survive the media storm, gone, because she stood between armed men and the people they were trying to kill. I'm sorry, Lena whispers. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Cole's voice is flat, stripped of emotion. Because the people who did this, we're going to find them. We're going to prosecute them. And we're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what they did and why. He leaves. Lena sits on the edge of her bed, hands clasped between her knees, and lets herself cry for the first time since this started. Not for herself, not for the fear or the stress or the impossible weight of being at the center of something so much bigger than one patient in one hospital room. She cries for Reeves, for the 4 other agents whose names she doesn't even know, for everyone who's been hurt because a few people decided profit mattered more than human life. Victor doesn't say anything. He just moves to sit beside her, his presence solid and grounding, and that's enough. Morning brings news that shifts the entire landscape. Keating arrives at the facility flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals, her expression somewhere between fury and vindication. "We got him," she announces, striding into the command center where Lena and Victor have been summoned. The leak. NSA traced encrypted communications from inside the prosecutor's office to a server in Hong Kong. Turns out one of our junior attorneys has been feeding information to the defense for the past 6 weeks. "Who?" Victor demands. "Trevor Morse, 28 years old, Harvard Law, recruited 2 years ago. Seemed like a golden boy until we pulled his financials and found deposits totaling $300,000 from an account linked to the same Singapore contractor." Keating's smile is cold. He's in custody, and he's talking. She pulls up a tablet, plays an audio file. Morse's voice, shaky and defensive. "Didn't know they were going to kill anyone. They said it was just intelligence gathering, making sure the defense had access to the same information as the prosecution. I thought I was leveling the playing field. You thought a $300,000 payout was about fairness?" Keating's voice on the recording, acid sharp. "I didn't ask questions. I just passed along case updates, witness lists, security protocols. I didn't know they'd use it to..." Morse's voice breaks. "I didn't know about the assault, I swear. If I'd known people were going to die..." The recording cuts off. Keating sets down the tablet. "He gave us everything. Names of his contacts, communication protocols, the entire payment chain. We're using it to trace back to the source. And we're close. Very close." "How close?" Lena asks. 48 hours? Maybe less. We've got warrants ready, SWAT teams on standby. Once we identify the final link in the chain, the person coordinating all of this, we move simultaneously on multiple targets." Keating looks at Victor. "Your former board members in Singapore? We've been coordinating with Interpol. They're about to find out that business opportunity doesn't protect them from international arrest warrants." Victor stands, pacing the small confines of the command center. "What do you need from us?" "Stay alive. Stay hidden. Let us do our job." Keating gathers her files. "The assault last night was a Hail Mary. They burned through resources, exposed their network, killed federal agents. That's not strategic thinking. That's panic. Which means they know we're closing in and they're trying to eliminate witnesses before we can build the final case." "So we wait," Lena says. "You wait. We hunt." The next 48 hours crawl past with the excruciating slowness of water dripping from a broken faucet. Lena and Victor are confined to their quarters except for meals and brief security briefings. They watch news coverage on a monitor that shows the outside world continuing without them. Markets reacting to the scandal, talking heads debating corporate responsibility, protesters gathering outside Silverbrook Medical Center with signs demanding justice. Lena's face appears again and again. That same ID photo, now iconic in a way that makes her stomach turn. Someone's created a documentary-style video compilation of her nursing school graduation, her early days at Silverbrook, interviews with former colleagues who paint her as either a hero or a troublemaker, depending on their agenda. The internet has decided she's both simultaneously a flawed person who did an extraordinary thing or an ordinary person thrust into extraordinary circumstances, or a calculating opportunist who saw a chance for fame and took it. "Does it bother you?" Victor asks on the second day, watching her scroll through social media comments. "What they're saying?" "Some of it." Lena sets down the tablet. "The people calling me a liar, saying I fabricated everything for attention, that bothers me. But the ones saying I'm just a nurse who got lucky? That doesn't bother me at all, because they're right. I am just a nurse. I don't have special skills or connections or resources. I just saw something wrong and tried to fix it." "What? You're not giving yourself enough credit." "I'm giving myself exactly the right amount." She meets his eyes. "You want to make me into something I'm not. A symbol, a leader, the face of healthcare reform. But that's not who I am. I'm the person who shows up for a shift and does the work and goes home. That's all I've ever been. Maybe that's exactly what we need. Victor leans back against the wall. Someone who isn't trying to be exceptional. Someone who just cares enough to do the right thing when it would be easier not to. Before Lena can respond, alarms shriek through the facility. They're on their feet instantly, training and survival instinct overriding thought. Cole appears in the doorway, weapon drawn. Lockdown. Unidentified vehicle approaching the perimeter. Could be nothing. Could be... The explosion rocks the building, distant but powerful enough to rattle the walls. Emergency lighting kicks in, bathing everything in red. Cole's radio crackles with urgent voices reporting breach attempts at multiple points. They found us, Victor says. Impossible. This location is classified. Cole's cut off by another explosion, closer this time. Both of you, with me, now. They run through corridors that have become a warren of confusion. Soldiers sprinting past with weapons ready. Officers shouting coordinates and tactical assessments. Cole leads them to an elevator that requires 3 different security clearances to access, then down into sublevels Lena didn't know existed. Emergency bunker, Cole explains as the elevator descends. Built during the Cold War for continuity of government scenarios. Reinforced concrete, independent air supply, communications array that can reach anyone anywhere. They can blow up the surface facility and we'll be fine. But the doors open onto a space that looks like something from a science fiction film. Banks of computers, communication equipment, a central table with digital maps and real-time satellite feeds. Colonel Vance is already there, coordinating the defense with calm precision. Casualty report? She asks without looking up. 2 wounded, none critical. They're probing our defenses, not mounting a full assault. An officer swipes through camera feeds showing the perimeter. 6 vehicles, approximately 20 combatants. Professional formation, but they're keeping distance. Because they know they can't win a direct engagement, Victor says. They're creating a distraction. For what? Lena asks. The answer comes in the form of Cole's phone ringing. He answers, listens, and his face goes pale. Sir, you need to see this. He turns the phone so everyone can see the screen. It's a live video feed, Keating bound to a chair in what looks like an abandoned warehouse, her face bruised, blood trickling from a cut above her eye. Behind her, a figure in a mask holds up a sign with a simple message, "Bring us Hale and Russo or she dies." The room freezes. Lena's brain can't process what she's seen. Keating, the prosecutor who'd been at the facility just hours ago, now captive and beaten and being used as leverage against them. When was she taken? Vance demands. Unknown. The feed just went live 60 seconds ago. Cole's working his phone, pulling up tracking data. But her car left the facility 3 hours ago. They must have grabbed her en route back to the city. Trace the feed, find the location. Already working on it, Colonel. The video changes. The masked figure removes their covering, revealing a face Lena recognizes from news coverage and board meeting photographs. Jonathan Krause, former CFO of Hale Industries, one of the 3 board members who'd fled to Singapore. Victor, Krause says, his voice distorted slightly by the phone's speaker but still recognizable. We both know how this ends. You hand over the evidence, you recant your testimony, and you disappear somewhere we'll never find you. In exchange, Ms. Keating lives, and we stop trying to kill everyone associated with this investigation. He's bluffing, Tanner says. Standard hostage negotiation tactic. I'm not bluffing. Krause pulls out a pistol, presses it against Keating's temple. She flinches but doesn't cry out. You have 2 hours. Bring yourself and the nurse to the coordinates we're about to send you, or I execute her live on camera and we move on to the next prosecutor. Then the next. We have the resources to keep doing this until you run out of people willing to fight for you. The feed cuts out. Victor's hands are shaking. Lena can see him calculating, weighing the options, trying to find a solution that doesn't end with someone dying. But there isn't one. They both know it. We can't give in to this, Vance says firmly. The moment we negotiate with terrorists, we lose all leverage. She's not a statistic, she's a person, Lena snaps. You're willing to let her die to maintain leverage? I'm willing to prioritize the larger mission over one individual. That's what command means, Ms. Russo, making impossible choices so others don't have to. Then I'll make this one simple. Victor stands. Send me. Not Lena, just me. I'm the primary target. I'm what they actually want. They want both of you dead or discredited, Cole says. Sending you alone doesn't change that. It buys time. It gives your tech people a chance to trace the feed, locate Keating, mount a rescue operation. Victor's voice is steady despite the fear Lena can see in his eyes. And it gives Lena a chance to finish what we started. She can testify without me. She has her own evidence, her own credibility. I'm not essential to the case anymore. Yes, you are, Lena says. No, I'm symbolic. You're substantive. He turns to her. You're the one who actually witnessed the day-to-day corruption. Who can speak to how the system fails patients? Who can make a jury understand why this matters beyond one billionaire's near-death experience? He touches her shoulder. Let me do this. Let me be useful in a way that doesn't involve money or power or resources. Let me be the person who saves someone for once, instead of the person who needs saving. Every instinct Lena has screams against this, but she sees the determination in Victor's face, understands what he's really saying. He needs this, needs to prove to himself that he's more than a victim, more than a target, that he can make the hard choice and live with the consequences. There has to be another way, she says. There isn't. Not one that guarantees Keating survives. Victor looks at Vance. You can track me, right? Whatever technology you use to monitor people? We can, but then do it. Plant a tracker, put a team on standby, give me whatever equipment I need to stay alive long enough for rescue. He's made up his mind. Lena can see it in the set of his jaw, the way he's already mentally preparing for what comes next. And when they realize Lena isn't coming, when they try to execute Keating anyway, you move in, fast and hard. End this. Vance studies him for a long moment. Then she nods to Cole. Prep him. We move in 30 minutes. The preparation happens in a blur. Lena watches as they fit Victor with a subcutaneous tracker, a device so small it's injected like a vaccine. They give him an earpiece disguised as a hearing aid, provide him with a jacket that contains a panic button in the lining. Cole runs through extraction scenarios and emergency protocols, while Lena stands aside, feeling useless and terrified. This is insane, she tells Tanner. They're going to kill him the moment they have what they want. Maybe. Or maybe Krauss actually believes he can still negotiate his way out of this. Either way, we'll have a team in position to intervene. Tanner checks his weapon. His movement's automatic. Victor's right about one thing. This buys us time and intel. We'll know where Krauss is operating from, who's with him, what their capabilities are. That's valuable. It's not worth his life. That's his call to make. Victor approaches, dressed in civilian clothes that make him look strangely vulnerable. Without the suit, without the armor of wealth and position, he's just a man about to walk into a situation designed to kill him. If I don't make it back, he starts. Don't, Lena cuts him off. Don't do the goodbye speech. You're coming back. But if I don't, I need you to know that what you did mattered, not just to me, to every patient who'll benefit from the changes we're forcing into existence, to every nurse who'll have the authority to question decisions without being punished, to everyone who's been invisible in a system that only values them as billing codes. He takes her hands. Promise me you'll see this through. No matter what happens tonight, you'll testify. You'll take that position. You'll make sure my company becomes what it should have been all along. Lena wants to argue, wants to refuse, wants to find any excuse to stop him from doing this. But she sees in his eyes the same thing she felt in that hospital room when she decided to inject him with an experimental drug, the bone-deep certainty that this is the only choice that matters. I promise, she whispers. He nods once, then turns to Vance. I'm ready. They watch on the monitors as Victor is driven out of the facility in an unmarked sedan, 2 agents in the front seat, their trajectory taking them toward coordinates that appeared on Cole's phone 7 minutes ago. The coordinates lead to an industrial park on the outskirts of the city, all warehouses and shipping containers and empty lots where nobody works after dark. Thermal imaging shows 12 heat signatures in the primary structure, an analyst reports. 4 on the perimeter, 8 inside. We've got sniper teams positioning now, SWAT on standby 2 blocks out. Lena watches Victor's car navigate through streets that grow progressively darker and more desolate. Her hands are clenched so tight her nails draw blood from her palms. Beside her, Cole monitors communications. coordinating the teams moving into position around the warehouse. "Victor, comms check," Cole says into his headset. "I hear you." Victor's voice comes through speakers, steady despite the circumstances. "Remember, you're there to buy time. Don't be a hero. The moment shooting starts, you hit the ground and stay down." "Understood." The car pulls up to the warehouse. Victor gets out alone, the agent staying with the vehicle per the instructions Kraus sent. Security lights illuminate the scene in harsh white glare. Victor walks toward the warehouse entrance, hands visible, moving slowly. The door opens. Kraus appears, still holding the pistol, Keating visible behind him tied to a chair. "Just you?" Kraus asks. "Where's the nurse?" "Safe, and staying that way." Victor stops 10 feet from the entrance. "You want to negotiate? Let's negotiate." But Keating walks first. "That's not how this works." "Then shoot me now and explain to whoever's funding this operation why you got nothing in return." Victor's voice is calm, almost conversational. "You didn't go through all this trouble just to kill me. You want something. What is it?" Kraus hesitates, and in that moment, Lena sees the crack in his armor. He's desperate, cornered, running out of moves. Whatever plan he started with has deteriorated into this, holding a federal prosecutor hostage in a warehouse, betting everything on a gambit that was always going to fail. "We want the evidence," Kraus finally says. "Every file, every recording, every document you've turned over to prosecutors. And we want your sworn testimony that you were mistaken about the conspiracy, that your accident was just an accident, that everything you've said was the product of head trauma and unreliable memory." In exchange for what? In exchange for Keating's life, and a guarantee that we stop targeting everyone associated with this case. Victor laughs, the sound bitter. "You don't have the authority to make that guarantee. You're not running this operation. You're just another middle manager following orders from someone else." Kraus's hand tightens on the pistol. "Careful." "Or what? You'll shoot me? You need me compliant, not dead. Otherwise you'd have killed me in that hospital bed 4 months ago instead of playing games with false medical records and delayed care." Victor takes a step closer. "You want to know what I think? I think whoever's really in charge saw an opportunity to take control of my company and took it. But they didn't count on me waking up. And they definitely didn't count on one nurse noticing that something was wrong." "That nurse ruined everything," Kraus spits. "If she'd just minded her own business, if she'd just followed protocol like everyone else, then you'd have gotten away with it. But she didn't. And now you're standing in a warehouse with federal agents surrounding you, holding a gun on a prosecutor with absolutely no way out." Victor's voice drops. "It's over, Jonathan. The only question is how many more people die before you accept that." For 3 seconds, nobody moves. Then Kraus raises the pistol, pointing it directly at Victor's chest. "SWAT! Go!" Cole's voice in the speakers. Everything happens at once. Windows shatter as flashbangs detonate inside the warehouse. Tactical teams breach from multiple entry points, voices shouting commands. Kraus spins toward the nearest threat, and Keating, bound but not helpless, throws herself sideways, tipping her chair and creating chaos. Gunfire erupts. Lena can't see details through the thermal cameras, just heat signatures moving in patterns of violence. Victor's tracker shows him on the ground, motionless. Keating's position unchanged, Kraus moving toward the back of the warehouse. "Status," Vance demands. "Multiple suspects down, SWAT has control of the primary space, pursuing runners." The analyst's voice cuts off as someone shouts in the background. "Colonel, we've got a problem. Kraus had an exit vehicle staged. He's mobile." The monitors shift to aerial view from a helicopter circling above. A car tears out of the warehouse's rear entrance, fishtailing onto the access road. Pursuit vehicles scramble to intercept, but Kraus has a lead, the gap widening as he speeds toward the highway. "Do not lose him," Vance orders. Lena's eyes are locked on Victor's tracker, still motionless, still inside the warehouse. "Cole," she says, her voice tight. "Is he—" "Medic team is with him now. Stand by." The seconds stretch. Lena watches the pursuit unfold on one monitor, while her entire attention focuses on the small, blinking dot that represents Victor's location. "Move," she thinks desperately. "Just move." The dot shifts, slowly, incrementally, but moving. Subject is conscious and responsive. a voice reports. Minor injuries, possible concussion from the flashbang proximity. He's ambulatory. Lena's legs go weak with relief. She sinks into a chair, hands shaking so badly she has to clasp them together. On the aerial feed, Krause's vehicle races through traffic, running red lights and using the shoulder to bypass slower cars. Pursuit is gaining, but not fast enough. Then the car swerves suddenly, smoke billowing from the hood. Engine failure, the helicopter observer reports. Subject vehicle is disabled. Krause abandons the car, running on foot into a commercial district. Pursuit teams converge, cutting off exits, establishing a perimeter. Through the helicopter's infrared camera, Lena watches Krause dart between buildings, trying to find a way out that doesn't exist. He emerges onto a main street right into the path of 3 police cruisers. Officers exit with weapons drawn, shouting commands. For a moment, it looks like Krause might surrender. Then he raises his pistol. Every officer fires simultaneously. Krause drops. The helicopter camera zooms in, showing the sprawled form, unmoving. Subject down, the observer says flatly. No vital signs. The command center erupts in controlled activity. Teams coordinating cleanup, evidence collection, witness interviews. Vance issues orders with mechanical efficiency. But Lena just sits there, watching the screen where Jonathan Krause died rather than face consequences for his actions. She should feel something, vindication, relief, satisfaction that justice was served. Instead, she feels empty, hollowed out by the recognition that this whole cascade of violence and death could have been prevented if people had just chosen differently at a dozen different decision points. Cole touches her shoulder. Victor's on his way back. Keating's being transported to a hospital, but her injuries aren't life-threatening. This is over, Lena. We won. Did they? Lena's not sure anymore what winning looks like in a situation where body counts keep rising and the people responsible keep choosing death over accountability. Victor returns an hour later, escorted by medics who insist he needs observation despite his protests. He's got a bandage over a cut on his forehead, and he moves stiffly, but he's alive and mostly intact. When he sees Lena, something in his expression cracks. "I thought you were dead," she says. "I thought I was, too, for about 10 seconds. He touches the bandage gingerly. Flashbang went off 3 feet from me. Couldn't see, couldn't hear, just felt myself hit the ground and hoped rescue would happen before execution. They sit together in the command center, while around them, the investigation shifts into its final phase. With Krause dead, prosecutors focus on the surviving conspirators. The board members in Singapore, the hospital administrators still in custody, the network of enablers who made the conspiracy possible. Over the next 6 hours, news breaks in cascading waves. Interpol arrests 2 more former Hale Industries board members in Singapore, executing warrants based on evidence Morse provided. The Singapore contractors' offices are raided, revealing payment records that connect them to 14 different operations spanning 3 years. The full scope of the conspiracy emerges. Not just Victor's attempted murder, but a pattern of corporate takeovers facilitated through sabotage, blackmail, and in 2 cases, actual assassinations disguised as accidents. It was never just about you, Keating says when she's released from the hospital with stitches and painkillers. She looks like hell, but sounds energized, that prosecutorial fire burning brighter than ever. You were the latest target, but this group has been operating for years, using your company's resources as a front, running operations through the medical network, hiding money in plain sight by routing it through hospital accounting. How many victims? Victor asks. We're still counting, but at least 20 individuals who had controlling stakes in companies that mysteriously ended up in your former board members' portfolios after they died or became incapacitated. Keating opens her briefcase, pulls out a file thick enough to be a novel. This is going to be one of the largest corporate corruption cases in U.S. history. Multiple jurisdictions, international cooperation, dozens of defendants. It'll take years to fully prosecute. What do you need from us? Lena asks. Testimony. Lots of it. You'll both be deposed again, probably multiple times. When trials start, you'll be on the stand for days, maybe weeks, as we build the case piece by piece. Keating looks at them both. I won't lie, it's going to be brutal. Defense attorneys will attack your credibility, your motives, your personal lives. They'll make you wish you'd never gotten involved. We're already involved, Victor says. Might as well see it through. The next morning, Lena wakes in a real bed for the first time in days. The facility's VIP quarters, which are only marginally more comfortable than the bunker rooms. Her phone has been returned, sanitized, and declared secure. When she turns it on, she finds 847 unread messages. Most are from reporters. Some are from former nursing school classmates she hasn't spoken to in years. A few are from patients or their families, thanking her for being a voice for people the system forgets. And one is from her mother, simple and direct. "I'm proud of you, baby. Your father would be too." Lena calls her mother for the first time since this began, and they talk for an hour about nothing important: the weather, the neighbor's new dog, a recipe her mother's trying to perfect, normal life, continuing somewhere beyond the chaos. It makes Lena cry for reasons she can't fully articulate. Victor finds her in the facility's cafeteria, nursing coffee that tastes like it was brewed sometime during the previous administration. He's got a laptop and that familiar intensity that means he's working on something. "Look at this." He turns the screen toward her. It's the organizational chart for the Patient Advocacy Office, but expanded now, not just one office, but a network spanning every hospital in the Hale medical system. Regional directors, investigative teams, legal support, protected channels for reporting. "I've been working on implementation timeline. We can have the first offices operational within 3 months. Lena studies the chart. This is going to cost millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds once it's fully scaled. Victor's smile is grim. "But what's the point of being a billionaire if I can't spend money fixing the system that tried to kill me? Consider it an investment in not having this happen to anyone else." "It's not enough," Lena says quietly. "What do you mean?" "This fixes your hospitals. What about the thousands of other facilities across the country running the same playbook? What about the patients who don't have a billionaire advocating for them?" She sets down her coffee. "We need federal legislation, mandatory patient advocacy programs, protected whistleblower status for healthcare workers, criminal penalties for administrators who prioritize profit over care. This can't just be Victor Hale cleaning his own house. It has to be systematic change." Victor stares at her. "You want to take this to Congress?" "I want to make sure what happened to you can't happen again. Anywhere. To anyone." Lena feels something hardening in her chest, a resolve she didn't know she possessed. And if that means testifying in front of congressional committees and fighting for legislation and becoming the face of healthcare reform, whether I like it or not, then that's what I'll do. For a long moment, Victor says nothing. Then he closes the laptop and stands. "Then we'd better start preparing, because taking on the entire healthcare industrial complex is going to make our current legal battles look like a warm-up." The press conference announcing the full scope of the investigation happens 3 days later. Not in a government building this time, but in the lobby of Hale Industries headquarters, Victor reclaiming his company publicly, standing in the space he built before it was nearly stolen from him. Lena stands beside him as he announces the arrests, the charges, the international coordination that brought down a conspiracy spanning multiple countries. She watches the cameras and knows that from this moment forward, her face will be associated with this story permanently. There's no going back to invisibility, no return to the quiet life where she clocked in for her shift and went unnoticed. When it's her turn to speak, she doesn't read from a prepared statement. She just talks, the way she talked to Victor when he was unconscious. Honest, direct, refusing to hide behind corporate language or legal disclaimers. "I'm a nurse. That's all I ever wanted to be. But being a nurse means seeing things that are wrong and trying to fix them, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." She looks directly into the nearest camera. What happened to Victor Hale happens to patients every day in hospitals across this country. Maybe not as dramatically, maybe not with assassination attempts and international conspiracies, but the same fundamental problem exists. A system that treats healthcare as a business and patients as products. A system where the most vulnerable people are viewed as expenses to minimize rather than lives to protect. She talks about mandatory nurse-to-patient ratios, about corporate accountability, about giving healthcare workers the authority to override financial decisions when care is at risk. She talks about her father, about learning from him that the work matters more than the recognition. And she talks about Victor, about how one patient made her realize that fighting the system isn't just about individual heroics, it's about changing the rules so heroics aren't necessary. When she's done, the room erupts in questions. But Lena barely hears them. She's looking at the faces in the crowd, reporters, hospital workers, patients and families who came to witness this moment. And she sees recognition, not of her specifically, but of the problem she's naming, the broken system they've all experienced. Later, after the conference, after the interviews and photo ops and coordination meetings, Lena finds herself alone in Victor's office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, the same view he must have had before someone sabotaged his car and sent him off that mountain road. She wonders what he was thinking that day, whether he suspected what was coming, whether he fought to stay conscious as the car fell, or whether he surrendered to the inevitable. "I was thinking about expansion," Victor says from the doorway. She hadn't heard him approach. "That day, I was driving back from a site visit planning how to grow the company into new markets, thinking about quarterly earnings and stock prices and all the things that seemed important at the time." He joins her at the window. "I don't remember the actual crash, but I remember the moment before. This feeling that something was wrong with the car, the way it wasn't responding correctly. And then nothing until I woke up with you standing over me, telling me I'd survived." "What do you think about now?" Lena asks. "How to make sure the expansion I was planning actually helps people instead of just generating profit. How to restructure the company so every decision gets filtered through patient impact first, shareholder value second." He's quiet for a moment. "And how to thank the person who gave me the chance to make those choices." "You already did. You gave me a job that terrifies me, and a platform I never wanted, and a future that's going to be infinitely more complicated than anything I planned." "Is that a complaint?" Lena considers. "No, it's just acknowledgement that everything changed and there's no going back." Her phone buzzes. A news alert. Former Silverbrook CFO arrested on 23 counts of fraud and conspiracy. She clicks through, reads that Claudia Brennan is being held without bail, that prosecutors are seeking maximum sentences for all defendants, that 3 more hospital administrators have turned state's evidence in exchange for reduced charges. The dominoes are falling. The empire built on negligence and greed is collapsing piece by piece, and Lena knows this is just the beginning. Months of trials ahead, years of testimony, congressional hearings, and legislative battles, and media attention that will never fully fade. But standing in this office, looking out at a city full of hospitals where nurses are working impossible shifts and patients are being reduced to billing codes, Lena feels something she hasn't felt since this started. Certainty. Not about the outcome, not about whether they'll win every battle or change every law, but certainty that fighting matters, that speaking up matters, that one person refusing to look away can crack open a system everyone else accepted as immutable. Victor's phone rings. He answers, listens, and his expression shifts. "When?" A pause. "Understood. We'll be there." He ends the call and looks at Lena. That was Keating. They've identified the final player. The person who was coordinating everything. The board members, the conspiracy, the assassination attempts. All of it. Who? Someone we haven't even considered yet. Someone with access to Victor Hale's innermost circle. Someone who knew his schedule and his security protocols and exactly how to orchestrate his death. Victor's voice is tight. "She wants us at the federal building in 1 hour, says we need to hear this in person." They ride to the federal building in silence, both processing the implications. Lena thought they'd identified all the major players. Krauss, the board members, the hospital administrators. But if there's someone else, someone who's been operating in the shadows while everyone else took the fall, then the conspiracy runs even deeper than they realized. Keating meets them in a secure conference room, flanked by FBI agents and looking like she hasn't slept since the warehouse. She doesn't waste time with pleasantries. "We traced the Singapore payments back to their source. Took our financial analysts 3 days and cooperation from 4 different governments, but we found it." She pulls up a bank statement on the screen. The accounts were controlled through a series of shell companies, but the ultimate beneficial owner is a private trust, and the trust beneficiary is... She clicks to the next slide. Lena's world stops. The name on the screen is one she knows, not from news coverage or investigation files, from hospital badges and administrative emails, and the voice that reassigned her away from Victor's care. Dr. Sarah Mendez, Chief of Neurology at Silverbrook Medical Center, the doctor who declared Victor's prognosis hopeless, the doctor who recommended withdrawing care. The doctor everyone trusted because she was brilliant and respected and had 30 years of impeccable credentials. No, Victor says. That's impossible. Sarah was my personal physician. She saved my life after a skiing accident 10 years ago. She's the one who recommended I invest in medical infrastructure. She positioned herself perfectly, Keating interrupts. Close enough to access but distant enough to avoid suspicion. She's the one who referred you to Silverbrook after your car accident instead of a major trauma center. She's the one who interpreted your brain scans as showing minimal activity when they actually indicated consciousness. She's the one who coordinated the board members' takeover, using her medical expertise to make the conspiracy believable. Why? Lena's voice is barely a whisper. Money, power, access to Hale Industries' medical research division, and the billions in potential revenue from their experimental treatments. Keating pulls up more files, emails, payment records, recorded phone calls. She's been planning this for years, slowly positioning pieces on the board. The car accident was supposed to kill you, Victor. When it didn't, she improvised, used her position to ensure you'd never wake up and expose her. Victor sinks into a chair, his face ashen. I trusted her with my life. And she tried to take it. Keating's voice softened slightly. I know this is difficult, but we need you focused. Dr. Mendez doesn't know we've identified her yet. She's still at Silverbrook, still practicing medicine, still in a position to hurt people. We need to move fast, and we need your help to make sure she doesn't slip away like the others tried to. What do you need? Lena asks. Keating's smile is sharp and cold. I need you to make a phone call. Lena stares at the phone Keating slides across the table, its screen dark and waiting. The device feels impossibly heavy when she picks it up, like it contains the weight of every decision that's led to this moment. You want me to call Dr. Mendez, Lena says. Not a question. And say what exactly? Victor's voice is hollow. Confess to orchestrating my murder because a nurse called her for career guidance? People get arrogant when they think they've won. Mendez believes the investigation is focused on board members and hospital administrators. Her name hasn't appeared in any public filings or news coverage. She thinks she's safe. Keating's eyes are hard. We make her believe Lena's having second thoughts, that the pressure's getting to her, that she needs someone with medical authority to validate her decisions. Mendez will either try to manipulate her into recanting, or she'll make a mistake trying to protect her position. Lena looks at the script. It's written to sound desperate, uncertain, exactly the kind of vulnerability that would appeal to someone who spent years exploiting weaknesses. This is entrapment. This is investigation. You're not law enforcement. You're a witness seeking consultation from a medical professional. Anything she says is admissible. Keating leans forward. I know I'm asking a lot, but this woman tried to kill Victor, has probably killed others, and will keep operating unless we stop her. You're the only person who can make this call believably. The room waits. FBI agents, prosecutors. Victor with his face still registering the betrayal of someone he trusted for a decade. Lena nods, but she's already composing what she'll actually say, the words forming in the part of her brain that knows how to talk to people who are suffering. Because that's what Mendez is, in her own twisted way. Someone suffering from the delusion that other people's lives matter less than her ambitions. The call connects on the third ring. This is Dr. Mendez.